Hello everyone, and welcome to the Saiyan What Ifs. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Goku was the Saiyan Slayer who mastered breathing beyond. D. The Sun, Goku x Mitsuri Kanroji x Videl, Demon Slayer x Dragon Ball. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Crimson Guardian. Cherry blossoms danced across the twilight sky, carried by winds that whispered ancient secrets through the mountain valley. Blood dripped from Goku's knuckles as he stood motionless, his orange gi tattered and singed at the edges. The mountain air grew heavy, charged with an energy that made the hairs on his neck stand on end. 6 bodies lay scattered around the village square, not dead, but unconscious villagers he'd managed to pull from burning homes. "Come out," Goku called, his voice calm despite the destruction surrounding him. "I can sense your energy signature. You're different from the others." The laughter that answered him seemed to come from everywhere at once, deep, guttural, and tinged with an otherworldly resonance. From between 2 collapsed buildings emerged a figure that moved with unnatural fluidity. The creature stood nearly 7 feet tall, muscular with spiky black hair that reached its lower back. Its skin bore an unsettling gray pallor with pulsing red veins across its exposed chest. Most disturbing were its eyes, pitch black with crimson irises that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "A Saiyan who hunts his own kind," the creature mused, its voice layering over itself as if 2 beings spoke simultaneously. "How disappointing." Goku's expression remained unchanged as he settled into a fighting stance. Feet shoulder-width apart, center of gravity low. "I hunt neither Saiyans nor demons. I protect those who cannot protect themselves." The creature's mouth split into a grin that stretched too wide for its face. Such noble sentiments from a race of conquerors. Do you not feel it? The call of destruction in your blood? "I know exactly what flows through my veins," Goku replied, drawing a deep, measured breath. The air around him began to shimmer with heat. "And I've learned to make it serve me, not the other way around." The possessed Saiyan tilted its head, studying Goku with predatory interest. "Your breathing technique, it's different from the Demon Slayer core. Not water, not flame, something older." Goku didn't answer. Instead, he began a rhythmic breathing pattern, 4 counts in, 7 counts hold, 8 counts release. With each breath, golden energy swirled around him, dancing like flames but controlled, contained. "Breathing beyond the sun," the creature hissed, recognition and fear flashing across its distorted features. "Impossible. That knowledge was lost millennia ago." "Not lost." Goku's voice remained steady as the golden energy concentrated around his fists. "Just forgotten." Without warning, the possessed Saiyan launched forward, crossing the distance between them in less than a heartbeat. Its fist connected with a thunderous crack, not against Goku's flesh, but against a barrier of compressed air and ki that had formed mere inches from his face. "Total concentration," Goku whispered, the words themselves carrying power. "Solar form." The air around them grew unbearably hot as Goku countered with a movement too fluid to be called a punch, more like sunlight taking physical form. His fist connected with the creature's sternum, leaving a glowing handprint that burned like a brand. The possessed Saiyan howled, the sound splitting between rage and pain. Its body convulsed as the demonic energy within it reacted violently to Goku's technique. "The demon essence corrupting your Saiyan host can't withstand purified solar energy," Goku explained, his voice carrying both compassion and resolution. "Let the Saiyan go, and I might be able to save you both." "Save?" The creature's laughter turned maniacal. "We are not separate entities requiring salvation. We are evolution manifest, the future that Lord Zenith has promised." The name sent a chill through Goku that counteracted the heat of his technique. Zenith, a name that had been appearing in his investigations with disturbing frequency over the past year. He creature used his momentary distraction to launch a counterattack, its movements becoming more erratic and unpredictable. Dark energy crackled around its form, the demon essence empowering the Saiyan body beyond its natural limits. Goku dodged a barrage of strikes, each movement precise and economical. Where the possessed Saiyan attacked with chaos and raw power, Goku responded with disciplined technique. He maintained his breathing rhythm even as the battle intensified, the golden energy never faltering. Your control is impressive, the creature conceded between attacks. But control means limitation. Embrace chaos. Embrace your true nature, and you could be so much more. Goku's eyes narrowed. You mistake restraint for weakness. With that, he shifted his breathing pattern. 3 counts in, immediate release. The golden energy condensed around his right hand, forming what appeared to be a blade of pure light. Solar breathing, first form, Dawn Cleaver. The strike was not aimed at the creature's vital points but at the junction where demonic energy and Saiyan ki were most visibly merged. The blade of light pierced through, creating a momentary separation between the two energies. The possessed Saiyan's body contorted unnaturally, the demon essence partially extracted but fighting to maintain its hold. Goku followed with a second technique, his left hand tracing a complex pattern in the air. Solar breathing, purification technique, separating skies. Golden threads of energy wrapped around the demon essence, pulling it further from the Saiyan host. The Kriatu fought against the separation with surprising strength, forcing Goku to increase his breathing intensity. Sweat beaded on his forehead as the technique demanded perfect concentration. You cannot save everyone, Saiyan Slayer. The demon essence hissed as it was drawn further from its host. Some unions are meant to be permanent. The Saiyan host's eyes flickered between their natural state and the crimson possession. Consciousness struggling to resurface. Kill me, the host managed to whisper in a moment of clarity, his true voice breaking through. Please, end it. Goku's expression remained resolute. There's another way. Drawing upon years of training and the ancient knowledge he'd pieced together from forgotten scrolls, Goku shifted to the most difficult breathing pattern. 1 count in, 20 counts hold. 1 count release. The technique strained his lungs and tested the limits of his ki control, but the result was immediate. The golden energy transformed, taking on the quality of sunlight filtered through crystal, purifying rather than destroying. Solar breathing, purification form, daybreak severance. With surgical precision, Goku separated the demon essence from the Saiyan host completely. The demon, forced into its true form without a host, writhed in the purifying light, a mass of shadows and red eyes that screamed with inhuman rage. Goku didn't hesitate. His final strike came as a vertical cut that bisected the demon essence. Golden energy consumed the darkness, leaving nothing but scattered particles that dissolved in the mountain air. The Saiyan host collapsed to his knees. Breathing raggedly but alive, his eyes returned to normal, dark but clear of possession. Confused, he looked up at Goku with a mixture of fear and gratitude. You separated us. How? His voice was hoarse, as if he'd been screaming for days. Goku knelt beside him, maintaining a cautious distance. A technique I developed after studying both ki manipulation and total concentration breathing. What's your name? Daikon, the Saiyan replied, still disoriented. We were sent to find you. By Zenith? Goku asked, his voice sharpening. He promised power beyond imagination. Said demons and Saiyans share an ancestral connection, that together we could evolve beyond our limitations. And instead, he turned you into a puppet, Goku observed, helping Daikon to his feet. How many others? Dozens, maybe more. They're creating hybrid warriors, part demon, part Saiyan. But the process, it's not perfected. Most don't survive with their minds intact. Goku's expression darkened. Where? Northern mountains. Ancient shrine. But you can't just. I won't, Goku assured him. Not alone. The sun had fully set now, leaving the damaged villa. GE illuminated only by the fires that still burned in several buildings. Villagers were beginning to stir, those who'd been knocked unconscious by the bottle's shockwaves slowly regaining consciousness. Goku turned to address them. It's over. The threat has been neutralized. He gestured to Daikon. This man was a victim, not the perpetrator. He needs medical attention. An elderly woman stepped forward. Her wrinkled face set with determination despite the fear in her eyes. We have healers who understand demon wounds. They can help him. Goku nodded gratefully. I need to report this to the core. Whatever's happening in the northern mountains is bigger than anything we've faced before. As the villagers took charge of the situation with surprising efficiency, Goku stepped away to gather his thoughts. He pulled a small communication device from his GI, technology that merged traditional demon slayer messenger crows with alien communication systems. Another innovation born of the strange world they now inhabited. Headquarters, he spoke into the device. This is Goku. I've encountered another possessed Saiyan. Pattern matches previous cases, but there's new information. The name Zenith came up again. Requesting permission to investigate the Northern Mountain Shrine. The response came almost immediately. Permission granted. Reinforcements will meet you at the base of Mount Hakare. Hashira Kanroji has been dispatched. Goku's eyebrows raised slightly. The love Hashira herself. This mission was being taken seriously. He'd heard stories of Mitsuri Kanroji's exceptional strength and unique fighting style but had never worked with her directly. Understood. We'll rendezvous at dawn. As he tucked the device away, Goku's mind drifted to the past, to how his journey had led him to this moment. 5 years earlier, blood pooled beneath Goku's body as he lay in the crater, his vision blurring at the edges. The battle had been unlike anything he'd ever experienced. NCED, the creature moved faster than any human possibly could, its strength overwhelming. Yet what disturbed him most was how familiar the fighting style had seemed, as if he'd been born knowing those movements. Your instincts betray your heritage, boy, the creature had taunted before landing the blow that left Goku on the verge of death. Saiyans recognize their own, even when raised among humans. The word, Saiyan, echoed in his mind as consciousness began to slip away. Something deep within him responded to that word, something primal and powerful that surged through his fading body. His adoptive grandfather's voice seemed to whisper from memory, "There's something special in your blood, Goku. Something that will either make you a guardian or a destroyer. The choice will always be yours." As darkness claimed him, Goku made that choice. He would not die here. He would not become a destroyer. He would understand this power and use it to protect. When he awoke 3 days later in the hidden infirmary of the Demon Slayer Corps, everything had changed. His body had healed at an impossible rate, and his senses had sharpened beyond human capability. The doctors explained what they knew, that his DNA contained markers similar to a race called Saiyans, warriors from beyond the stars whose scattered descendants sometimes appeared on Earth. Your near-death experience triggered what we call a Zenkai boost, the chief medical officer explained. A Saiyan trait that makes you stronger after recovering from severe injuries. But there's something else unusual in your readings. Your key pathways are structured differently from other Saiyans we've encountered. Key pathways? Goku had asked, still trying to process everything. Energy channels in your body. Most Saiyans have destructive energy patterns, but yours. The doctor displayed a complex chart showing flowing lines of energy. Yours are remarkably balanced. Almost as if your human upbringing altered your Saiyan physiology. In the months that followed, Goku devoted himself to understanding this dual heritage. He trained with martial arts masters to control his physical abilities and studied with the Demon Slayer Corps to learn about the supernatural threats that had begun merging with alien visitors in recent decades. The breakthrough came during a meditation session high in the mountains, where the air was as thin and the boundary between earth and sky seemed to blur. As Goku struggled to control the surging power within him, an elderly hermit appeared, a man who claimed to have once been a demon slayer before retreating from the world. Your problem, the old man observed after watching Goku's frustrated attempts, is that you're trying to suppress your Saiyan nature rather than channel it. Like Tr. Ying to dam a river instead of directing its flow. The hermit introduced Goku to ancient texts that predated the standard breathing techniques used by demon slayers. These described a method called breathing beyond the sun, a technique supposedly developed during a time when beings from the stars first visited Earth. The ancients believed the sun was the source of all purifying energy, the hermit explained. They developed breathing patterns that allowed practitioners to channel solar energy directly. It fell out of practice because few humans could withstand the intensity. But a Saiyan body, which naturally absorbs and processes solar radiation, Goku dedicated himself to mastering these forgotten techniques, combining them with his instinctive understanding of key manipulation. Had emerged was something new, a hybrid technique that allowed him to purify and control the destructive potential of his Saiyan blood. When he returned to the Demon Slayer Corps 6 months later, Goku demonstrated abilities that defied categorization. He could sense energies beyond the perception of traditional demon slayers, purify demonic corruption without standard Nichiren blades, and maintain his humanity even when tapping into his Saiyan power. The core recognized the value of these abilities, especially as reports increased of demons somehow merging with or possessing extraterrestrial visitors. Goku became their specialist for these cases, earning the unofficial title, Saiyan Slayer, though he preferred to think of himself as a guardian rather than a slayer. Dawn painted eastern sky in hues of gold and crimson as Goku arrived at the base of Mount Hakare. The mountain's silhouette loomed against the brightening sky, ancient and imposing. Local legends claimed the mountain itself was a slumbering guardian, its peculiar gravitational anomalies a result of its spiritual significance. Goku settled into a meditative posture, closing his eyes to extend his senses beyond physical sight. The mountain's energy signature was indeed unusual. Pockets of intensified gravity alternated with areas where weight seemed almost meaningless. More concerning were the faint traces of corrupted ki spreading like dark veins through the mountain's natural energy field. Fascinating technique. Not quite total concentration breathing, but something adjacent. The voice startled Goku, not because of its sudden appearance, but because he hadn't sensed anyone approaching. His eyes snapped open to find a woman standing before him, regarding him with curious green eyes. Mitsuri Kanroji wasn't what he expected. The love Hashira's reputation spoke of extraordinary strength and battlefield prowess. Bim appeared almost delicate at first glance. Her pink and green hair was tied in a braid that reached her lower back. And her Demon Slayer uniform had been modified with floral patterns along the edges. Only her muscles, visible despite her feminine frame, and the twin Nichiren blade at her hips suggested her true capabilities. Goku rose to his feet with fluid grace. Hashira Kanroji, I'm Goku, the Saiyan Slayer, she replied with a smile that transformed her entire face, making her appear younger and somehow more dangerous simultaneously. Though I hear you prefer not to use that title. Titles create distance, Goku said simply, and expectations that might not align with reality. Mitsuri laughed, a sound like wind chimes caught in a summer breeze. Well said. The core enjoys its traditions and formalities, but effectiveness matters more than protocol. She gestured toward the mountain path. Shall we discuss what we're facing? As they began their ascent, Goku briefed her on his encounter with the possessed Saiyan and the information he'd gathered about operations in the northern shrine. Demon Saiyan hybrids, Mitsuri mused, her expression thoughtful despite maintaining a pace that would exhaust most trained soldiers. The physical implications alone are troubling. Demons gain power by consuming humans, while Saiyans grow stronger through combat and recovery. Combined, a potentially exponential growth curve, Goku finished. And that's as. Summing the hybridization is simply additive rather than multiplicative. Mitsuri glanced at him with new interest. You have a more analytical mind than your file suggested. Living with dual nature requires understanding both thoroughly, Goku replied. I've spent years studying Saiyan physiology and demonic essence to better control my own abilities. They paused at a ridge overlooking a steep valley. Below, partially concealed by ancient cedar trees, stood stone structures that predated recorded history, the outer buildings of the shrine complex. I can sense 11 distinct energy signatures, Goku said, closing his eyes briefly. 4 are similar to Daikon, Saiyans with demonic corruption. 6 appear to be pure demons, likely guards. The last, he frowned. The last is different, not demon, not Saiyan, but something that resonates with both. Mitsuri unsheathed one of her blades, the distinctive pink metal catching the morning light. Love breathing allows me to perceive emotional states. Whatever's happening in that shrine is causing immense suffering. Her voice hardened, though her expression remained gentle. We should approach from different angles. Your solar Brea thing can disrupt the demon-Saiyan connection, while my techniques work better against pure demons. Goku nodded. I'll circle around to the eastern entrance. The gravitational anomalies are weaker there, which might give us an advantage if we need to retreat quickly. Bold of you to include retreat in your planning, Mitsuri observed with a small smile. The reports about you suggested a more direct approach to combat. Effectiveness over protocol, Goku replied, returning her earlier words with a slight smile of his own. And living to fight another day is generally more effective than dying heroically. Mitsuri's laughter echoed briefly before she grew serious again. 30 minutes to get into position, then we move simultaneously. If you encounter the unidentified entity, do not engage alone. Signal me." With a nod of agreement, they separated. Goku moved through the forest with practiced silence, his breathing steady and controlled as he navigated around areas where gravity intensified. The shrine's eastern approach featured stone lanterns placed at irregular intervals, many cracked and covered with centuries of moss. As he drew closer, Goku noticed something odd. Out the lanterns, faint symbols etched into their bases that resembled neither Japanese characters nor any Earth language he recognized. The eastern entrance was a simple stone archway, unguarded but humming with energy that made Goku's skin prickle. He extended his senses, confirming the positions of the energy signatures he'd detected earlier. 2 of the possessed Saiyans were moving in a patrol pattern near the central courtyard, while the pure demons seemed to be concentrated around what felt like a subterranean chamber beneath the main shrine building. The unidentified entity remained stationary in that same underground area, its energy pulsing with a rhythm that struck Goku as almost ceremonial. A sharp spike in demonic energy from the western approach indicated Mitsuri had engaged the enemy. Right on schedule, Goku slipped through the eastern archway, his breathing shifting to the pattern that facilitated stealth. 3 counts in, 12 counts hold, 3 counts out. His presa, NCE in the energy field of the shrine became nearly undetectable as he moved toward the central courtyard. The architecture of the shrine complex became increasingly bizarre as he proceeded. Traditio, null Japanese elements mixed with structures that defied conventional building techniques. Stone blocks fitted together with impossible precision, surfaces that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light, and doorways aligned with celestial positions rather than cardinal directions. As Goku reached the edge of the central courtyard, he caught his first glimpse of the possessed Saiyans. Unlike Daikon, these individuals showed more advanced stages of hybridization. Their skin had taken on the texture of hardened ash, with glowing red patterns that pulsed in synchronization. Their movements were unnaturally coordinated, suggesting a hive-mind connection rather than individual consciousness. Across the courtyard, a flash of pink signaled Mitsuri's arrival. She moved with breathtaking speed, her Nichiren blades leaving trails of light as she engaged 3 pure demons simultaneously. Her fighting style was unlike anything Goku had seen before, flowing and unpredictable, using the exceptional flexibility of her muscles to attack from impossible angles. The distraction provided Goku the opportunity to approach the main shrine building. The possessed Saiyans turned toward Mitsuri's battle, clearly prioritizing the more visible threat. Goku slipped past them, pausing only when he reached the entrance to the main building. Here, the symbols he'd noticed on the lanterns were repeated with greater complexity, intricate patterns that seemed to describe celestial movements and energy flows. Something about them resonated with Goku's understanding of key manipulation, as if they were ancient instructions for channeling energy. A sudden explosion of power from the courtyard drew his attention. Mitsuri had dispatched 2 of the demons and now faced the remaining one, a larger entity whose body constantly shifted between solid and liquid states. More concerning were the possessed Saiyans now moving to surround her. Goku made a split-second decision. The unidentified entity below remained the primary objective, but Mitsuri needed support against multiple opponents with complementary abilities. His breathing shifted to the combat pattern, 4 counts in, immediate forceful release. Golden energy erupted around him as he abandoned stealth for speed, crossing the courtyard in a blur of movement. Solar breathing, 3rd form, meridian strike. Goku's attack connected with the nearest possessed Saiyan, his hand driving through the corrupted energy field to strike precise points where demonic essence and Saiyan ki converged. The target staggered, its synchronized movements disrupted as the demonic corruption temporarily lost cohesion. Mitsuri reacted to his arrival without hesitation, adapting her strategy to complement his techniques. Love breathing, 4th form, flowing dance of euphoria. Her blades became nearly invisible as they traced complex patterns through the air, targeting the shifting demon while Goku engaged the possessed Saiyans. They fought with remarkable synchronicity for 2 warriors who had never known each other's vulnerabilities. The main building, Goku called between strikes. Something beneath it, some kind of ritual chamber. Mitsuri nodded, her understanding as she bisected the shifting demon with a final decisive strike. These are just guardians. Whatever's happening below is the true threat. One of the possessed Saiyans broke from the group, racing toward the main building as if to warn whatever waited below. Goku moved to intercept but found himself suddenly fighting against intensified gravity, one of the mountain's anomalies. Activating in response to the combat energy, Mitsuri, noticing his momentary struggle, launched herself over the remaining opponents with impossible agility. "Go, I'll handle these three." The trust implicit in her command struck Goku as profoundly as any physical blow. He'd worked with other demon slayers before, but always with underlying caution, always aware of the suspicion his Saiyan heritage inspired. Mitsuri showed no such reservation, focusing purely on tactical efficiency. Goku adjusted his breathing to counter the gravitational distortion and pursued the escaping Saiyan. As he entered the main building, the architecture shifted dramatically, the interior space expanding far beyond what the exterior dimensions should allow. Ancient pillars supported a ceiling that seemed to capture starlight despite being indoors. And the floor featured inlaid metals that formed circuitry-like patterns. At the center of this impossible space, a spiral staircase descended into darkness. The possessed Saiyan had already disappeared down these stairs, its energy signature fading as it moved deeper underground. Goku paused at the top of the staircase, extending his senses to gauge what waited below. The unidentified entity's energy had changed, intensifying and fracturing simultaneously, as if undergoing some form of transformation or perhaps performing complex energy manipulation. A familiar rhythm reached Goku's ears, breathing. Not human breathing, not even Saiyan breathing, but something that mimicked the patterns of total concentration breathing while inverting its purpose. Instead of focusing energy, this breathing pattern seemed designed to fracture and corrupt it. With a final adjustment to his own breathing technique, shifting to the pattern that maximized his ability to purify corrupted energy, Goku descended the staircase. The air grew increasingly dense with each step, charged with opposing energy fields that created an almost physical resistance. The chamber at the bottom of the staircase defied comprehension. The walls were lined with what appeared to be technology far beyond Earth's current capabilities, yet integrated with ceremonial elements reminiscent of ancient demon-worshipping cults. Suspended in the center of the room was a crystalline structure that pulsed with alternating waves of demonic essence and Saiyan ki. Before this structure stood a possessed Saiyan who had fled the courtyard, now prostrating itself before a figure whose back was turned to Goku. This second figure, presumably the unidentified entity, wore robes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Patterned with the same symbols Goku had observed throughout the shrine. "You're too late, Guardian," the robed figure spoke without turning, its voice neither male nor female but something that existed between defined states. "The synchronization is already underway. The first generation of true hybrids will emerge with the next full moon." "Who are you?" Goku demanded, maintaining his position at the base of the staircase, senses alert for any trap or sudden attack. The figure turned slowly, revealing a face that shifted between features, sometimes appearing Saiyan, sometimes demonic, sometimes something else entirely. Only the eyes remained constant, ancient eyes that held knowledge no mortal was meant to possess. "I am merely a servant of Lord Zenith," the figure replied. "A humble scientist continuing work begun millennia ago, when your kind first visited this world and encountered the natural predators that evolved here." "Natural predators," Goku repeated, his mind racing to connect historical fragments he'd gathered over years of research. "You mean demons?" The figure's mouth curved into something approximating a smile. "Before they were called demons. Before humans dominated this planet, they were simply the apex predators of Earth. Beings of remarkable adaptability who could absorb the traits of what they consumed." The figure steered to the crystalline structure behind it. "Imagine the interest of early Saiyan explorers who discovered creatures that grew stronger through consumption, just as Saiyans grow stronger through combat." Understanding dawned on Goku with chilling clarity. The early Saiyans didn't just discover demons, they experimented on them. "Experimented with them," the figure corrected. "A collaborative effort, initially. Both species recognized the potential benefits of genetic exchange. But the experiments were crude, the technology insufficient." Its gaze shifted to the possessed Saiyan still prostrated on the floor. "Until now." The crystalline structure pulsed more rapidly, its light intensifying as energy patterns within it aligned with increasing precision. Whatever process was underway, It was approaching some critical threshold. Goku began gathering his energy, solar power condensing around his hands as he prepared to destroy the structure. Whatever you're creating here stops now. You misunderstand your place in this story, Guardian, the figure said, its form beginning to blur at the edges as if reality itself struggled to maintain its cohesion. You are not here to prevent creation, you are here to witness it. Your unique physiology, your balanced energy, is the final component we've been waiting for. The floor beneath Goku suddenly illuminated, revealing that he stood at the center of an activation circle that had been dormant until now. Energy surged upward through his body, attempting to extract the balanced key that made his breathing technique possible. Pain, unlike anything he'd experienced before, tore through Goku's system as the extraction process began. His vision blurred, consciousness threatening to slip away as the chamber around him distorted with waves of conflicting energy. Through the haze of pain, Goku focused on his breathing, not fighting the extraction directly but redirecting it. If his energy was the key they needed, perhaps he could use that connection against them. Solar breathing, purification form, internal radiance. Instead of projecting his energy outward as an attack, Goku turned it inward, creating a feedback loop within his own body. The extraction process drew this amplified energy into the shrine's systems, overwhelming circuits and corrupting the carefully calibrated harmonics of the ritual. The crystalline structure began to fracture, cracks spreading across its surface as conflicting energies destabilized its molecular structure. The robed figure lunged toward the console, frantically attempting to abort the process before catastrophic failure. No, the hybridization sequence is incomplete. The subjects will degrade without the stabilizing matrix. From above, the sounds of battle intensified as Mitsuri presumably engaged the remaining guardians. The chamber shook with the force of explosions, dust and debris raining down from the ceiling. Goku maintained his breathing technique despite the strain it placed on his system. Blood trickled from his nose and ears as he pushed his body beyond safe limits, but the alternative, allowing this hybridization experiment to succeed, was unacceptable. E-robed figure abandoned the console and turned toward Goku, its form now barely maintaining humanoid shape. You don't understand what you're preventing. This is evolution, the next step for both species. Forced evolution isn't evolution at all, Goku replied through gritted teeth. It's just another form of destruction. With a final surge of effort, Goku released the Acuantrol detonation. That shattered the extraction circle beneath his feet. The feedback traveled through the shrine's energy systems, cascading from one component to the next until it reached the crystalline structure. The resulting explosion sent a shockwave through the chamber that threw Goku against the far wall. His vision darkened momentarily from the impact, but he fought to remain conscious, aware that the danger was far from past. When his sight cleared, he found the chamber in ruins. The technological components were reduced to melted slag, and the ceremonial elements had been reduced to ash. The possessed Saiyan lay motionless, the demonic essence having been purged from its body by the energy surge, leaving only an unconscious Saiyan warrior. The robed figure was nowhere to be seen, though a trail of strange fluid led toward a previously hidden doorway now exposed by the structural damage. Goku moved to follow but staggered, his body finally registering the full extent of the strain he'd placed upon it. Solar breathing. Recovery form. Dawn restoration, he whispered, shifting to the breathing pattern that accelerated his Saiyan healing abilities. It wouldn't restore him completely, but it would prevent immediate collapse. Footsteps on the staircase announced Mitsuri's arrival. She surveyed the destruction with a professional eye before focusing on Goku with unexpected concern. You look terrible, she observed, though her tone carried no judgment. Whatever happened down here nearly killed you. Extraction ritual, Goku explained between measured breaths. They wanted my balanced key to stabilize their hybridization process. I used the connection to overload their systems instead. Mitsuri knelt beside the unconscious Saiyan, checking vital signs. This one's alive, pure Saiyan now, no trace of demonic corruption. She glanced toward the hidden doorway. The entity escaped. Goku nodded. Servant of Zenith, it claimed. A scientist continuing work that began millennia ago. He gestured toward the ruined technology. This was just one facility. There will be others. There always are. Mitsuri sighed, rising to her feet with fluid grace. But we've disrupted their timeline, at least. The Corps will want a full report on everything we've learned here. As they secured the unconscious Saiyan and prepared to evacuate the unstable chamber, Goku studied the symbols etched into fragments of the shattered crystal. Something about them seemed hauntingly familiar, as if part of him recognized their meaning on an instinctual level. The connection between Saiyans and demons, he mused aloud. It's older than either the Corps or the current demon hierarchy realizes. Mitsuri regarded him thoughtfully. You think this Zenith is trying to restore some ancient alliance? Not an alliance, Goku corrected, recalling the robed figure's words. An evolution, a merging of species that began ages ago but was never completed. He pocketed a crystal fragment, intending to study it more thoroughly later. Whatever Zenith is planning, it's been in motion for centuries, maybe millennia. They made their way back through the deteriorating shrine complex, supporting the unconscious Saiyan between them. As they emerged into daylight, Goku noticed that the gravitational anomalies had intensified, as if the mountain itself was responding to the disruption of ancient systems. We should move quickly, he advised. The shrine's destruction seems to be destabilizing the entire area. Mitsuri nodded in agreement, adjusting her grip on the Saiyan as they began their descent. You know, she said after they'd traveled some distance in companionable silence, your file described you as a solitary operator who prefers to work alone. Goku raised an eyebrow. And you demonstrated remarkable teamwork back there, she continued. Adapting to my fighting style, creating openings for combined attacks, trusting my judgment when we separated. Not the actions of someone who prefers isolation. Perhaps the file needs updating, Goku suggested with a slight smile. Mitsuri returned the smile, her green eyes reflecting genuine amusement. Perhaps it does. The Hashira meet monthly to discuss ongoing threats and coordinate response strategies. You should attend the next gathering, share what you know about these Saiyan demon connections directly. The invitation surprised Goku. Hashira meetings were typically closed to all but the pillars themselves and the highest-ranking officers of the Corps. For Mitsuri to suggest his inclusion indicated a level of respect he hadn't anticipated. I'd be honored, he replied simply. As they continued their descent, Goku reflected on how quickly circumstances could change. Yesterday, he'd been a specialist working primarily alone, trusted for his abilities but kept at arm's length due to his heritage. Today, he'd formed an unexpected alliance with one of the Hashira and uncovered a conspiracy with implications that stretched across species and centuries. The crystal fragment in his pocket seemed to pulse with its own rhythm, a reminder that what they'd discovered today was merely the surface of a much deeper mystery. Whatever Zenith was planning, whatever evolution the robed figure had spoken of, Goku sensed it would require every resource and alliance he could gather to confront what was coming. Behind them, Mount Hakare stood silent against the afternoon sky, its secrets barely scratched despite the morning's revelations. Somewhere beyond the horizon, in hidden facilities and ancient shrines, the work continued, demons and Saiyans being forged into something new under the guidance of an entity whose true nature remained shrouded in mystery. Goku adjusted his breathing to the pattern that facilitated healing and endurance. The journey ahead would be long, the challenges unprecedented. But for the first time since discovering his Saiyan heritage, he felt something beyond purpose, he felt connection. In Mitsuri's fighting spirit, in the Corps' recognition of his value, in the shared mission to protect humanity from threats beyond conventional understanding. The sun began its descent toward the western horizon, casting long shadows across the mountain path. In its golden light, Goku found renewed determination. He was neither human nor Saiyan alone, neither destroyer nor victim of his heritage. He was something evolution itself had not anticipated, a guardian who breathed beyond the sun, channeling destructive potential into protective power. And he was no longer walking this path alone. Chapter 1 End. Chapter 2. Pride of Satan City. Neon signs flickered against the twilight canvas of Satan City's skyline, casting electric blues and violent magentas across rain-slicked streets. The city pulsed with contradictions, ancient traditions housed in steel and glass, spiritual practices marketed through digital billboards, martial arts dojos nestled between corporate skyscrapers. 3 days had passed since the incident at Mount Hakare, and Goku found himself navigating an environment entirely different from the rural simplicity of mountain shrines. The Capsule Corporation building loomed ahead, its dome-shaped architecture distinct among the surrounding rectangles and squares. Goku adjusted the collar of his civilian clothes, a simple black jacket over a white t-shirt, still uncomfortable with urban attire after years spent primarily in his GI. The meeting wasn't scheduled for another 30 minutes, but punctuality had been drilled into him by his ado PTIVE grandfather alongside other values that shaped his character. "Identification, please," requested the security guard at the entrance, her posture indicating formal combat training beneath the corporate uniform. Goku presented the credentials provided by the Demon Slayer Corps, documentation that identified him as a special consultant on extraterrestrial phenomena. The title amused him, Natized for scientific institutions that preferred not to acknowledge the supernatural elements increasingly affecting their world. Ned slightly as she scanned his ID. "You're him." The sigh. "Just Goku is fine," he interrupted gently. She nodded, composed herself quickly. "Dr. Briefs is expecting you in Laboratory 7. 15th floor, East Wing." The elevator ascended silently, its glass walls offering an expanding view of Satan City's sprawl. From this height, Goku could see how the city had been constructed in concentric rings, each representing different eras of development. The innermost circle featured traditional architecture, temples, dojos, and gardens preserved as cultural landmarks. The middle rings showcased mid-century expansion with uniform apartment blocks and industrial zones. The outermost rings sparkled with hyper-modern developments, including the massive Satan Arena where the world champion maintained his headquarters. The doors opened with a soft chime, revealing a corridor of polished white surfaces and subtle blue lighting. Laboratory 7's entrance featured additional security, biometric scanners and energy field detectors that hummed as Goku approached. "Fascinating," came a voice from within as the doors slid open. "Your energy signature triggers our alien detection systems, yet differs significantly from the other Saiyan samples we've analyzed." Dr. B. Reefs, a middle-aged man with lavender hair and perpetually distracted eyes, didn't look up from his console as Goku entered. Multiple screens surrounded him, displaying data streams and energy pattern analyses. "My breathing technique alters my key signature," Goku explained, approaching the workstation. "It's one reason the Corps finds me useful for infiltration missions." Yes, breathing technique, drive," Briefs muttered, finally looking up. "Remarkable adaptation. We've been studying the physiological changes induced by total concentration breathing for years, but your variant introduces variables we hadn't considered." He gestured toward a vacant chair. "Please, sit. The fragment you recovered from Mount Hakare has proven quite enlightening." Goku remained standing, more comfort on his feet in unfamiliar environments. "You've made progress with the translation, decryption, and historical contextualization, drive," Briefs confirmed with poorly concealed excitement. "The symbols aren't merely decorative, they're a form of data storage. Preliminary analysis suggests they encode information about genetic manipulation techniques dating back approximately 12,000 years." The timeline aligned with Goku's suspicions. "The earliest estimated arrival of Saiyans on Earth." "Precisely." Dr. Briefs tapped a sequence on his keyboard, bringing up holographic projections of DNA strands. "What's remarkable is how the encoded techniques describe splicing methods far beyond what should have been possible in that era. The fragment contains partial instructions for merging what we now recognize as Saiyan DNA with terrestrial organisms possessing unusual regenerative capabilities." "Demons," Goku provided. Dr. Briefs hesitated, scientific skepticism battling with empirical evidence. "We prefer genetically aberrant terrestrial entities in our documentation, but yes, what the Demon Slayer Corps calls demons." He adjusted his glasses. The fragment suggests these experiments were abandoned following some catastrophic failure, though details are frustratingly incomplete. Mount Hakare was just one facility, Goku noted, studying the holographic displays. "The scientist I encountered mentioned others." "Indeed. Based on geographical references encoded in the fragment, we've identified 7 potential locations where similar facilities might exist." Dr. Briefs brought up a global map with points highlighted across continents. 3 are underwater, likely inaccessible without specialized equipment. 2 are in politically unstable regions where our access would be limited. The remaining 2, He zoomed in on the map. One is approximately 40 kilometers beneath what is now Satan City. Goku's eyes narrowed. Beneath the city. That's concerning given population density. Quite. Dr. Brief's expression grew serious. More concerning is that we've detected energy fluctuations consistent with activation sequences. Something down th. Air is waking up after millennia of dormancy. Since when? Initial anomalies were recorded 3 months ago, but intensity increased dramatically following the Mount Hakare incident. Dr. Briefs leaned back in his chair. Fatigue evident in his posture. It's as if your disruption of one facility triggered acceleration protocols in the others. The implications were troubling. If Zenith's place, and involved multiple facilities operating in coordination, disrupting one without understanding the broader system might have inadvertently advanced their timeline. I need access to whatever's beneath the city, Goku stated. Dr. Briefs nodded. Capsule Corporation has been mapping the subterranean structures for weeks, but we've encountered both physical and energy barriers at crucial junctures. We believe access requires specific genetic markers or energy signatures. He glanced meaningfully at Goku. Your unique physiology might bypass those barriers. You want me to infiltrate? The Corps has already approved the operation, Drive. Briefs confirmed. But there's a complication. The deepest access points are beneath the Satan Dojo complex. Mr. Satan guards his territory jealously and hasn't been cooperative with our research teams. Goku suppressed a smile. The world champion's reputation was built on carefully managed public appearances and exhibition matches against selected opponents. A man who claimed demons were mere hoaxes and aliens were publicity stunts would naturally resist scientific investigation beneath his headquarters. I'll handle Mr. Satan, Goku assured Drive. Briefs. My concern is civilian safety if something activates fully before we understand its purpose. We've developed containment protocols and evacuation plans for worst-case scenarios. Dr. Briefs handed Goku a small device resembling a wristwatch. This will allow secure communication and transmit your biometric data during the operation. It also contains mapped routes to the access points we've identified. Goku secured the device around his wrist, noting its lightweight design and unobtrusive appearance. When do we begin? Immediately, if possible. Energy fluctuations have increased by 17% in the past 12 hours. Dr. Briefs hesitated before adding, there's one more thing you should know. Mr. Satan's daughter has been conducting her own investigation into unusual incidents around the city. Our surveillance suggests she's gathered substantial information about demonic activity, despite her father's public denials. Videl Satan, Goku mused, recalling Medi, a coverage of the young martial artist who had emerged from her father's shadow to establish her own reputation in combat sports. You think she might be an ally? Or a complication? Drive. Briefs replied diplomatically. Either way, you're likely to encounter her if you approach the Satan Dojo complex. Goku nodded his understanding. I'll leave immediately. Thank you for your assistance, Doctor. As he turned to leave, Drive. Briefs called after him. One question, if you don't mind, purely scientific curiosity. When Goku paused, the scientist continued. Your breathing technique, traditional. Total concentration breathing enhances practitioners through oxygen efficiency and blood flow optimization. But yours seems to incorporate actual energy manipulation at the quantum level. How is that possible? Goku considered the question. He exists in all living things, Doctor. Most humans access only a fraction of its potential. Demon slayers develop techniques to channel it through respiratory control. Saiyans manipulate it instinctively through cellular adaptation. He generated a small sphere of golden energy above his palm. My technique doesn't create anything new, it simply bridges methodologies that evolved separately but share fundamental principles. Dr. Briefs sphere with undisguised fascination. The convergence of disparate evolutionary paths toward similar energy utilization, remarkable. Almost as if there was a common origin. Goku finished, dispersing the energy. That's what concerns me about these ancient facilities. What if demons and Saiyans aren't as separate as we've believed? The scientist's expression shifted from academic interest to genuine concern. Then whatever's being awakened may be reconnecting what was deliberately kept apart. The implication hung between them. Unspoken but understood. Goku departed with renewed urgency, the weight of possibilities pressing upon him. As the elevator descended, he shifted his breathing to the pattern that enhanced his senses. 2 counts in, 14 counts hold, 2 counts out. The city's energy signatures came into sharper focus, revealing patterns normally obscured by urban electromagnetic interference. Something pulsed beneath the streets, a rhythm too steady to be natural, too ancient to be human technology. Saiyan City had been built upon foundations it never understood, and those foundations were stirring. The Saiyan Dojo complex dominated the entertainment district, its architectural excess reflecting its owner's personality. Giant statues of Mr. Saiyan in heroic poses flanked the main entrance, while digital billboards displayed continuous loops of his greatest victories. The afternoon crowds moved through the plaza with the reverence of pilgrims at a sacred site, who are chasing merchandise and taking photographs beside bronze recreations of famous moments from the champion's career. Goku observed from across the street, mentally mapping the complex against the subterranean scans provided by Dr. Briefs. The primary access point appeared to be beneath the oldest section of the complex, the original dojo where Mr. Saiyan had trained before achieving celebrity status. This presented a challenge, as that area was reportedly reserved for the champion's personal use and select advanced students. As he considered approach strategies, Goku's attention was drawn to a disturbance near the western entrance. A young woman with short black hair styled in pigtails was engaged in heated conversation with security personnel. Her fighting stance, subtle but unmistakable, identified her as a trained martial artist, while her features confirmed her identity even before Goku noticed the Saiyan Dojo emblem on her white t-shirt. Videl Saiyan had inherited her father's intensity but little of his showmanship. Where the world champion projected carefully choreographed bravado, his daughter radiated authentic determination. The security guards, large men selected more for appearance than skill, shifted uncomfortably under her focused glare. Fourth incident this week. Videl's voice carried across the plaza as her frustration mounted. 3 witnesses described the same phenomena, and the energy readings match the previous locations. This isn't coincidence. Miss Saiyan, one guard attempted placatingly, your father has made his position clear. These investigations are unauthorized and potentially damaging to the Saiyan brand. The Saiyan brand. Videl's incredulous laugh cut through the ambient noise of the plaza. People are disappearing. Strange energy signatures are being detected across the city. And you're worried about branding. Goku approached casually, hands in his pockets, projecting the appearance of a curious bystander. As he drew closer, he noted details about Videl that media coverage had never captured, the calluses on her knuckles from thousands of hours of training, the analytical sharpness in her blue eyes as they assessed potential threats. The almost imperceptible adjustment of her breathing when confronted with opposition. Most intriguingly, he detected something that should have been impossible, a natural key signature that fluctuated rhythmically. Almost like rudimentary breathing techniques, yet clearly untrained. Videl Saiyan possessed innate energy control capabilities that most humans required years of specialized training to develop. Excuse me, Goku interjected, stepping between Videl and the increasingly uncomfortable guards. I couldn't help overhearing. You mentioned energy readings from multiple locations. Videl's attention shifted to him. Suspicion immediate in her posture. Who's asking? Someone with similar interests, Goku replied, keeping his tone conversational despite the guard's growing unease. I've been tracking unusual energy patterns across the city for several weeks. Sir, this is a private matter, the lead guard asserted with renewed confidence now that attention had shifted away from him. I'm going to have to ask you to move along. Videl studied Goku intently, something like recognition flickering in her expression. Wait, I know you. You're the consultant who's been working with Capsule Corp on their atmospheric anomaly project. She made air quotes around the euphemism. The one with the unusual martial arts background. The precision of her information suggested resources beyond what a civilian should possess, even one with her family connections. Goku reassessed the situation, recognizing an opportunity. Perhaps we could discuss our findings somewhere less public, he suggested. Noting the growing crowd of onlookers attracted by the confrontation, Videl hesitated only briefly before nodding. Fine, but not here. She turned back to the guards. My father, I'm pursuing independent research. Again. The authority in her tone brooked no argument, and the guard stepped aside with reluctant deference. Videl led the way across the plaza toward a less crowded side street. Her stride purposeful and efficient. Goku followed, maintaining a respectful distance while assessing her key signature more carefully. The natural fluctuations suggested untapped potential of extraordinary magnitude. Once they'd turned into a quieter alley lined with service entrances to the entertainment district's restaurants and shops, Videl stopped abruptly and turned to face him. Let's skip the pretense, she said, crossing her arms. You're not just a consultant. The energy signature you're giving off isn't human. So either you're one of them, or you're something else entirely. The directness was refreshing after the scientific euphemisms and bureaucratic doublespeak Goku had navigated at Capsule Corporation. My name is Goku. I'm what you might call a hybrid investigator. Hybrid in what sense? Videl pressed, maintaining her defensive posture. Methodology and physiology, Goku answered honestly. I work with multiple organizations tracking phenomena that defy conventional classification, and I have unique abilities that help in that work. You mean you're part alien, Videl translated bluntly. Saiyan, specifically, if my research is correct. Goku couldn't suppress a smile at her perceptiveness. Your research is impressively thorough for someone whose father publicly denies the existence of extraterrestrial visitors. Ather denies a lot of things that inconvenience his worldview, Videl replied with a hint of bitterness. Just like he denies the increasing demon activity beneath his precious dojo. The confirmatio, and that she was aware of the subterranean situation simplified matters considerably. That's actually why I'm here. There's an ancient facility beneath the Saiyan dojo complex that's showing signs of reactivation. I need access to investigate. Videl's expression shifted from suspicion to intense interest. The energy fluctuations have been tracking. They're coming from whatever's down there, aren't they? Yes, and they're accelerating. She considered this information, tactical calculations visible in her expression. I've mapped several access points to the underground network, but the pest chambers have security measures I haven't been able to bypass. Those measures might respond to my particular energy signature, Goku explained. But I need a way into the restricted areas of He complex without attracting determined smile spread across Videl's face. As it happens, I'm the only person besides my father with authorization to enter every section of the complex. She extended her hand in a formal gesture. I believe this is what's called a mutually beneficial arrangement, Goku. He accepted the handshake, noting the strength in her grip and the calluses that spoke of dedication to her craft. Partners, then. Provisional partners, Videl corrected, releasing his hand. I need to know exactly what we're dealing with before I commit fully. Fair enough. Goku glanced at the device drive. Briefs had provided. The most recent energy surge occurred approximately 20 minutes ago. If the pattern holds, we have a 3-hour window before the next one. Videl check. Her own watch. A custom device with additional displays that Goku suspected included energy detection capabilities. Then we should move now. My father's holding a press conference across town about his new energy drink line. The security team will be operating with minimal staff. She led him through a network of service corridors and employee entrances that bypassed the main security checkpoints of the Saiyan Dojo complex. The ease with which she navigated these hidden pathways suggested frequent use, a shadow infrastructure she developed to conduct her investigations beneath her father's radar. How long have you been researching these phenomena? Goku asked as they descended a maintenance stairwell that smelled of industrial cleaners and old sweat. Seriously, about 2 years, Videl replied, her voice echoing slightly in the enclosed space. But I've suspected something wasn't right since I was 14. That's when I started seeing things that didn't match my father's carefully constructed reality. Things, quote. Videl paused at a security door, swiping a keycard before entering a complex sequence on the attached keypad. A janitor whose eyes reflected red in certain light. A training dummy that leaked black fluid when struck in specific places. Visitors to my father's private dojo whose movements didn't flow right. The door clicked open, and she continued through. Little inconsistencies that no one else seemed to notice or acknowledge. You have natural key perception, Goku observed. It's extremely rare in humans without specialized training. Is that what it is? Vidal's voice carried genuine curiosity beneath her matter-of-fact tone. I always called it my weird radar. It's like seeing energy patterns around people and objects, different colo. RS and intensities depending on what I'm looking at. They emerged into a dimly lit corridor lined with display cases containing martial arts memorabilia, ancient weapons, yellowed scrolls, and faded photographs of masters long dead. This section of the complex predated Mr. Satan's ownership, preserved as a historical exhibit rarely open to the public. This is the original structure, Videl explained, her voice automatically lowering in the museum-like atmosphere. Built in 1887 as a traditional dojo, then expanded in the 1920s to include Western boxing techniques. My father purchased it her years ago and built his entertainment empire around it. She approached a particular display case containing what appeared to be breathing masks carved from ancient wood. But he never bothered to investigate why the original founders chose this specific location. Goku studied the masks with newfound interest, recognizing elements that resembled early total concentration breathing training devices. They knew something, Videl agreed. The dojo's original name translates roughly to Gateway of Balanced Breath. The founding documents describe it as a place where earth energy rises to meet heaven's warriors. She tapped a sequence on her watch, causing a section of flooring near the far wall to slide away, revealing stone steps descending into darkness. Ready to see what heaven's warriors were so interested in. The staircase spiraled downward at a steep angle, carved directly into bedrock that grew increasingly dense with crystal formations as they descended. The ambient temperature dropped noticeably with each complete rotation, while the air pressure increased in subtle increments that would have been imperceptible to someone without Goku's enhanced senses. I've mapped 3 levels beneath the complex, Videl explained as they continued downward. The first appears to be traditional catacombs, possibly constructed during the Edo period based on architectural elements. The second level contains chambers with markings similar to what you're seeing on these walls. The third level, that's where I've encountered barriers I can't breach. The crystal formations became more pronounced as they reached the bottom of the staircase, emitting a faint luminescence that provided just enough light to navigate without artificial assistance. The catacombs, Videl had mentioned, extended in multiple directions, narrow corridors lined with alcoves containing deteriorated remains. Traditional burial sites repurposed, Goku observed, noting how the alcoves had been modified with symbols etched into the surrounding stone. The same symbols that had appeared at Mount Hakare. The original structure wasn't built above this place by coincidence. I figured as much, Videl agreed, leading him confidently through the labyrinthine passages. Her familiarity with the route suggested countless previous expeditions. The question is whether they built here to access what was below, or to contain it. They proceeded in companionable silence, each assessing the environment through their respective abilities. Goku extended his senses, detecting energy currents flowing through the crystal formations like circuits in a massive computer. Videl occasionally paused to consult her watch or place her palm against particular wall sections, seemingly confirming readings through direct contact. The transition to the second level came abruptly, a threshold where the rough-hewn catacombs gave way to precisely engineered chambers with walls of fitted stone block. That shouldn't have been possible with ancient technology. The ceiling height doubled, and the passageways widened to accommodate larger beings. The architecture changes completely, Videl noted, running her fingers along the seamless join between massive blocks. No mortar, no visible cutting marks. Each block weighs several tons, yet they're fitted with sub-millimeter precision. Like the ancient sites in South America and Egypt, Goku remarked, recognizing similarities to other locations he'd investigated. Except those sites don't have these. Videl directed his attention to recess D panels embedded in the walls at regular intervals. Each contained crystalline structures arranged in patterns resembling circuit boards. They react to energy. Watch. She approached one panel and extended her hand without touching the surface. Concentrating visibly, she adjusted her breathing to a more controlled rhythm. The crystals nearest her hand illuminated in response, creating patterns that flowed outward from the point of her focus. Impressive, Goku acknowledged, especially without formal training. It's inconsistent, Videl admitted, withdrawing her hand as the crystals faded back to dormancy. Sometimes I can activate simple sequences, but the more complex patterns remain dark. And the barriers to the third level don't respond at all. They continued through chambers O, F, increasing complexity, spaces designed for purposes neither could fully determine. Some contained what appeared to be medical examination tables carved from single crystal blocks. Others featured CIR, couloir platforms surrounded by energy conduits. All bore the same cryptic symbols Goku had encountered at Mount Hakare. The barriers are just ahead, Videl announced as they approached a massive CIR couloir door embedded in the far wall of what appeared to be a control center of sorts. Crystal consoles formed a semicircle before the door, their surfaces dark and unresponsive. This ends end. Goku approached the door, studying its construction. Unlike the stone architecture surrounding it, the door appeared to be composed of a metal alloy he couldn't identify. Its surface was etched with concentric circles of symbols. And at its center was a recessed panel similar to those they'd passed earlier, but more complex in its crystalline arrangement. The energy signature's drive, briefs detected originate beyond this point. Goku confirmed, sensing the rhythmic pulses emanating from whatever lay behind the barrier. The patterns are becoming more organized, less like random fluctuations and more like activation sequences. Can you open it? Videl asked, her professional demeanor failing to completely mask her excitement at potentially accessing chambers she'd been attempting to breach for months. Goku considered the door's design, comparing it to similar barriers he'd encountered in other ancient facilities. It's responding to specific energy signatures. The crystal configuration suggests it's calibrated to recognize particular genetic markers combined with energy patterns. Saiyan markers, Videl concluded. Possibly, but not exclusively. Goku placed his palm against the central panel, shifting his breathing to the pattern that balanced his Saiyan ki with the solar energy his technique channeled. The scientist at Mount Hakare mentioned collaboration between early Saiyans and terrestrial entities. This might require elements of both. The crystals beneath his palm illuminated immediately, but rather than the simple activation patterns Videl had demonstrated, these began cycling through complex sequences, information transmission rather than mere power flow. The concentric circles of symbols on the door's surface began to rotate in alternating directions, aligning into new configurations as the mechanism responded to Goku's energy signature. It's scanning your genetic structure, Videl observed, checking readings on her watch. And something else. The ENRGY pattern you're generating is being compared against stored templates. A resonant hum emanated from the door as the alignment process continued, vibrations passing through the stone floor beneath their feet. Goku maintained steady breathing, allowing his energy to flow naturally into the system without forcing or redirecting it. The key to these ancient mechanisms was harmonization rather than domination, a principle many investigators failed to recognize when approaching alien technology. Something's wrong, Videl warned, backing away from the door as her watch displayed rapidly changing readings. The comparison algorithm is flagging discrepancies. Your signature is similar to what it expects, but not identical. The humming intensified, crystal components throughout the chamber illuminating in response to the door's activation. Energy began cycling through the room's conduits with increasing speed, creating a visible current that flowed from console to console before returning to the door. It's attempting to compensate for the discrepancies, Goku realized, maintaining his position despite the escalating energy field. Adapting its parameters to accommodate variation. The door's rotation suddenly halted, symbols locking into a final configuration. A seam appeared down its center as the massive barrier began to part, revealing darkness beyond. But as the opening widened, Goku sensed a defensive response activating, the facility's security protocols engaging due to the imperfect match. We need to move, he warned Videl, withdrawing his hand from the panel. The systems allowing access but triggering countermeasures simultaneously. Videl's combat instincts responded before her conscious mind fully processed his warning. She dove for cover behind one of the crystal consoles as energy discharges erupted from conduits throughout the chamber, targeting the area where Goku had been standing. Goku evaded with practiced efficiency, his breathing shifting to the pattern that maximized speed and reflexes: 1 count in, immediate release, 1 count hold. Golden energy trailed his movements as he navigated between discharge points, analyzing the attack path. RN to identify its programming parameters. It's not trying to kill, he called to Videl as he continued his evasive maneuvers. The energy bursts are calibrated for immobilization rather than destruction. Tell that to the system. Videl shouted back, narrowly avoiding a discharge that left a scorched mark on the stone floor where she'd been crouching. My watch is picking up some kind of signal transmission. I think it's calling for reinforcements. The implications were concerning. If the facility had automated defense systems beyond the immobilization protocol, or worse, if it housed entities that responded to security breaches, their exploratory mission could quickly become something far more dangerous. We need to reach the third level before those reinforcements arrive, Goku decided. Calculating trajectories and timing as the discharge pattern continued. The door's open, but we'll have to run a gauntlet to reach it. Videl emerged from cover, positioning herself to sprint toward the partially opened door. I'm faster than I look, she assured him, her breathing already adjusting to a controlled rhythm that suggested formal martial arts training. Just tell me when. Goku completed his analysis of the attack pattern, identifying a 3-second gap in the cycle where both of them could potentially cross the distance to the door without interception. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. Now. They launched simultaneously, Videl demonstrating speed that indeed exceeded expectations for an unenhanced human. Her technique was flawless, center of gravity maintained, perfectly as she wove between discharge points with the precision of a seasoned fighter. Goku matched her pace rather than racing ahead with his superior capabilities, positioning himself to EPT any discharges that might target her. The golden energy of his breathing technique formed a partial barrier around them both, deflecting minor energy pulses that strayed too close to their path. They reached the doorway just as the discharge cycle intensified, diving through the opening as energy bursts converged on their previous positions. The door began closing immediately after they passed through, its massive sections rejoining with a resonant boom that echoed through the chamber beyond. Darkness enveloped them momentarily before crystal formations in the new chamber responded to their presence, illuminating with a blue-white glow that revealed their surroundings. The space was vast, easily the size of 4 football fields and high enough that the ceiling remained in shadow despite the growing illumination. This isn't what I expected, Videl admitted, her voice hushed as she took in the scene before them. The chamber contained what could only be described as a city, structures of crystal and unknown alloys arranged in concentric circles around a central plaza. Each building featured architectural elements that combined features from ancient Earth civilizations with signs that were clearly not of terrestrial origin. Crystalline towers twisted in geometrically impossible configurations alongside stepped pyramids that resembled Mesoamerican designs but constructed from materials that shimmered with internal light. Most striking was the central plaza, where a massive apparatus rose from the floor like a technological tree. Its trunk consisted of intertwined conduits that pulsed with energy, while branch-like extensions reached toward different sections of the underground city. At its apex, suspended within a field of visible energy, rotated a spherical ECT approximately 3 meters in diameter. It's beautiful, Videl whispered, her analytical demeanor momentarily overcome by genuine wonder. An active, Goku noted with concern, observing how energy flowed through the system with increasing intensity. This isn't dormant technology being reactivated, it's functioning technology to a low power state for millennia. They proceeded cautiously toward the central plaza, both instinctively moving with the silent discipline of trained fighters. The ground beneath their feet was not stone but some form of composite material that absorbed sound, making their approach virtually silent. As they drew closer to the central apparatus, details became clearer. The suspended sphere contained what appeared to be a 3-dimensional map, continents and oceans recognizable as Earth, but with significant differences from the current configuration. Additional layers displayed energy ley lines and what might have been population distributions or resource concentrations. It's Earth, Videl confirmed, studying the rotating display. But not our Earth. The continental arrangement matches theoretical models of Earth's landmass configuration from approximately 12,000 years ago. Goku glanced at her with newfound respect. You've researched prehistoric geography. Among other things, she replied with a hint of defensiveness. When you start investigating phenomena your father insists don't exist, you develop broad research interests. Before Goku could respond, the sphere's rotation halted abruptly. The map display flickered, the N transformed into a new configuration, the modern Earth with specific locations highlighted. One pulsing point of light indicated their current position beneath Satan City. 6 others appeared at locations globally distributed, including Mount Hakare. The 7 facilities, Goku realized. This is a network map. The display zoomed in on their location, revealing detailed schematics of the underground complex. Multiple sections illuminated in sequence, suggesting activation protocols spreading through the system. Most concerning was a chamber labeled in the ancient symbols, a designation Go. Who recognized from the Mount Hakare facility. Incubation chamber, he translated grimly. Same terminology used for the hybridization experiments. Videl stepped closer to the display, studying the schematics with tactical assessment. It's 3 levels below us, at the deepest point of the complex. And according to this, it's already active. A new sound reached them, a rhythmic mechanical vehement emanating from the darkened periphery of the chamber. Multiple sources, approaching methodically from different directions. Goku extended his senses, detecting energy signatures that registered as neither fully technological nor fully biological. We have company, he warned, shifting his stance to a defensive position that placed him back to back with Videl. Automated security or servitor entities. Approaching from multiple vectors. Videl moved instinctively into a complementary fighting stance, her body language communicating absolute readiness despite facing unknown threats. Hostile, unknown, but given the reception at the door, we should assume defensive protocols are active. Goku began gathering energy through his breathing technique, golden light coalescing around his hands. How's your combat experience against non-human opponents? Limited but educational, Videl replied with surprising calm. 3 confirmed encounters with what the core classifies as minor demons. 2 victories. 1 strategic withdrawal. The figures emerging from the shadows defied easy classification. Humanoid in general configuration but constructed from materials similar to the S. Surrounding architecture, crystalline components integrated with metallic frameworks and what appeared to be preserved organic elements. They moved with precise coordination, 12 entities forming a circle around Goku and Videl at a distance of approximately 20 meters. Guardians, Goku identified, recognizing similarities to automated defenders he'd encountered at other ancient sites. Lickle, why programmed to contain intruders rather than eliminate them? Containment I can handle, Videl responded, dropping into a lower stance that maximized stability. Just tell me where to hit. The GU. Ardians continued their approach in perfect synchronization, each step precisely timed and identical across all 12 entities. As they entered the fuller illumination of the central plaza, Adishina, L details became visible, faces formed from crystalline masks with recessed sensor arrays where eyes would be on a human, limbs articulated with technology far beyond current capabilities, and cores pulsed with the same energy flowing through the chamber's systems. Goku analyzed their movement patterns, identifying potential weaknesses in their construction and coordination. The energy cores, in their chest cavities are control centers. Disrupt those, and the units should deactivate temporarily. Temporarily works for me, Videl affirmed, her breathing settling into a rhythm that Goku recognized as remarkably similar to rudimentary total concentration breathing. Whether through intuition or self-teaching, she had developed techniques that paralleled formal methods without explicit instruction. The Guardians halted their advance simultaneously, forming a perfect circle around the intruders. A hum of communication passed between them, not audible language but frequency modulations that Goku's enhanced hearing could detect as information exchange. Without warning, 4 Guardians launched forward with synchronized movements, approaching from cardinal directions with inhuman speed. Their crystalline limbs reconfigured mid-motion, forming weapons appropriate to their attack vectors, bladed extensions for the 2 targeting Goku, capture mechanisms for those approaching Videl. Goku reacted with the fluid precision of thousands of hours of combat experience, his breathing technique manifesting as golden energy that enhanced his already formidable speed and strength. Solar breathing, 4th form, Corona counter. His movements became nearly impossible to track visually as he intercepted both attackers simultaneously, golden energy concentrated at precise impact points had disrupted the Guardians' core functions. The crystalline entities staggered backward, their coordination temporarily fragmented by the unexpected resistance. Videl proved equally capable against her opponents, though with different methodology. Where Goku utilized energy projection and enhanced capabilities, she employed immaculate technical precision and biomechanical efficiency. Her strikes targeted joint mechanisms and sensor arrays with the calculated effectiveness of someone who had studied similar constructs before. "You've fought these before," Goku observed as they repositioned. The first wave of Guardians regrouping with visible damage to their systems. "Similar models," Videl confirmed, maintaining her defensive stance as the remaining 8 Guardians adjusted their formation. "Found 2 deactivated units in a sealed chamber last year. Studied their construction before my father's security team confiscated them. The tactical implications were significant. Videl wasn't merely a talented martial artist with unusual perceptive abilities but a methodical investigator who prepared extensively for contingencies. Her combat effectiveness against technological constructs reflected careful study and preparation rather than mere instinct." The Guardians initiated a second attack pattern, this time with all 8 remaining units advancing simultaneously in a complex int-R locking formation designed to overwhelm through coordinated pressure rather than direct confrontation. Their movements created a 3-dimensional lattice of attack vectors that would be nearly impossible for an ordinary human to navigate. "They're adapting to our capabilities," Goku warned, recognizing the tactical shift. "This pattern is designed to separate us and restrict mobility. Then we don't let them dictate the engagement." Videl responded with unexpected strategic insight. Center position, back-to-back, rotational defense with alternating counter-strikes. The suggestion was textbook response to encirclement, a technique Goku had employed numerous times but wouldn't as someone without extensive combat experience against multiple opponents. He shifted position smoothly, establishing the formation Videl had suggested as the Guardians' attack lattice closed around them. What followed demonstrated why Videl had earned respect in competitive martial arts despite her youth. Her movements synchronized perfectly with Goku's, anticipating his defensive rotations and creating openings for counter-strikes with exceptional timing. Where he employed energy-enhanced techniques that shattered crystalline components, she executed precision strikes that disrupted internal mechanisms with minimal force application. "Your training is impressive," Goku acknowledged as they dispatched the 5th Guardian. "Its core sputtering with disrupted energy patterns. Family legacy, personal interest, and necessity," Videl replied between controlled breaths, ducking beneath the crystalline blade before targeting the joint mechanism of its wielder. "My father may be a showman, but the Saiyan style has legitimate foundations." The remaining Guardians abruptly halted their attack, retreating to reform their circle at a greater distance. The damaged units dragged themselves back to the formation despite significant impairment, suggesting a hive mind prioritization of collective function over individual operational status. "They're reassessing," Goku observed, using the momentary respite to adjust his breathing pattern to one that facilitated recovery and energy conservation. "And Posi, Bly communicating with the central system." As if confirming his assessment, the massive apparatus at the center of the plaza pulsed with intensified energy. The spherical display shifted to a new configuration, focusing on the chamber designated as the incubation facility. Status indicators flashed in sequences that suggested accelerated activation protocols. "They're not just defending," Videl realized, interpreting the display with remarkable accuracy despite the alien symbology. "They're buying time for whatever's happening in the incubation chamber to complete its cycle." The tactical situation had shifted from containment to a race against time. If the incubation chamber reached full activation before they could investigate and potentially neutralize it, the consequences could extend far beyond their immediate safety. "We need to reach that chamber," Goku stated, assessing routes through the underground complex based on the schematics they'd observed. Videl nodded in agreement, her expression hardening with resolve. "These Guardians are just the outer defense layer. There will be additional security measures protecting the primary facility." The Guardians began a new approach, this time moving with deliberate slowness that suggested revised tactical programming. Their formation shifted from a circle to a phalanx, creating a barrier between the intruders and the most direct route to the deeper levels. "They're abandoning capture protocols for containment," Goku observed. "They don't need to subdue us, just prevent us from interfering with the activation sequence." Then we need a diversion. Videl concluded, her eyes scanning the chamber with tactical assessment. Something to divide their attention while creating an alternate path to the lower levels. Goku followed her gaze, noting how her attention lingered on the energy conduits flowing from the central apparatus to various sections of the underground city. You're thinking of disrupting the power distribution. Exactly. Videl pointed toward a junction where multiple conduits converge before branching toward different districts of the crystalline city. That node handles significant energy flow but isn't directly connected to the incubation chamber systems. Disrupting it would trigger security responses without endangering whatever's happening below. The strategic thinking impressed Goku. Videl had correctly identified a target that would create maximum distraction with minimum risk to their primary objective. It was the kind of tactical assessment he'd expect from experienced core operatives. Not a civilian investigator, regardless of her martial training. I can create the disruption, he offered, gathering solar energy through his breathing technique. A controlled burst getting the junction would temporarily overload the distribution network without permanent damage to the facility. While they respond to the power fluctuations, I can access the maintenance shaft indicated in the schematics. Videl continued, pointing toward a recessed panel near the edge of the plaza. It bypasses 2 security checkpoints and connects directly to the level above the incubation chamber. The plan was sound, though it required separation, a tactical disadvantage given the unknown threats they might face individually. Goku considered alternatives but recognized the time constraints imposed by the accelerating activation sequence. Once I've created the disruption, I'll follow as quickly as possible, he decided. If you reach the incubation chamber before I catch up, OBS. Only. No direct intervention until we understand what we're dealing with. Videl nodded, her expression serious but confident. Agreed. Priority is intelligence gathering unless immediate action becomes necessary to prevent activation. Quote, they synchronized their watches, establishing communication protocols and rendezvous parameters. The Guardians continued their slow advance, apparently prioritizing positional advantage over immediate engagement, further evidence of adaptive tactical programming. On my mark, Goku instructed, beginning the breathing pattern that concentrated solar energy for precise application. Golden light gathered around his hands as he focused on the power junction Videl had identified. 3, 2, 1. Mark. With perfect timing, they launched their coordinated plan. Goku directed a concentrated burst of solar energy toward the junction, calibrating the intensity to overload systems without catastrophic damage. The effect was immediate. Energy surged through connected conduits, creating cascading disruptions throughout the distribution network. Crystal structures throughout the chamber flickered with power fluctuations, and alarm frequencies emanated from multiple systems. The Guardians responded exactly as anticipated, their programming prioritizing infrastructure protection over intruder containment. 8 units immediately redirected toward the affected junction, while 4 maintained position to block direct routes to the lower levels. Videl exploited the diversion with impressive speed, navigating between crystalline structures rode the maintenance access point she'd identified. Her movement pattern minimized exposure while maintaining optimal velocity, another indication of thorough tactical training. Goku provided additional distraction, generating secondary energy disruptions that further divided the Guardians' attention. The 4 units maintaining containment positions split their focus, creating a brief opportunity that Videl exploited with perfect timing. She reached the maintenance access panel, activating it with a precisely calculated application of pressure to its crystalline surface. The panel reconfigured in response, revealing a vertical shaft that descended into the depths of the complex. With a final confirmatory glance toward Goku, Videl entered the shaft and began her descent toward the incubation chamber. With Videl safely en route to their primary objective, Goku shifted tactics from distraction to controlled withdrawal. The Guardians had begun adapting to his disruption strategy, recalibrating their responses to minimize system damage while maintaining pursuit. He needed to disengage efficiently to follow Videl without leading the entities directly to her position. Solar breathing, 6th form, daybreak veil. Golden energy expanded around him in a spherical formation, temporarily obscuring his position from the Guardians' sensor arrays. The technique required intense concentration to maintain. but provided the concealment toward a secondary access route to the lower levels. The schematic had shown an emergency evacuation shaft near the eastern perimeter of the central PLA. ZA, a direct vertical route that bypassed standard access controls. Designed for rapid facility evacuation rather than entry, it would likely have minimal inbound security measures compared to the main passageways. Goku navigated through the crystalline city with practiced stealth, maintaining his concealment technique while evading the increasingly disorganized Guardian patrols. The power disrupt ion had created sufficient chaos to fragment their coordinated response patterns, reducing their effectiveness despite their numerical advantage. He reached the evacuation shaft without direct confrontation, identifying the access mechanism based on similarities to emergency systems he'd encountered in other ancient facilities. These typically prioritized rapid operation over security verification, designed for maximum throughput during crisis situations. The panel responded to basic pressure application, confirming his assessment of minimal security integration. The shaft opened to reveal a vertical tunnel with periodic energy fields that presumably functioned as deceleration mechanisms during descent. For Goku's purposes, they presented navigational obstacles rather than impassable barriers. He entered the shaft and allowed gravity to accelerate his descent, using controlled bursts of ki to navigate between energy fields. The shaft extended deep into the complex, passing multiple levels of laboratories and living quarters visible through transparent sections of the tunnel walls. What Goku observed during his descent provided crucial context to the facility's purpose. Unlike the Mount Hakare installation, which had focused primarily on hybridization experiments, this complex appeared dedicated to long-term habitation and research. The visible chambers contained living RTERs suitable for different physiologies, research laboratories with specialized equipment, and what appeared to be cultural preservation spaces containing artifacts from multiple civilizations. TS wasn't merely an experimental outpost, it was a scientific colony designed for extended operation across generations. The implications were significant for understanding Zenith's connection to these facilities and the historical relationship between Saiyans and terrestrial entities. The shaft terminated at a level that, according to the schematics, was directly adjacent to the incubation chamber. Goku exited cautiously, extending his senses to detect potential security measures or Guardian units. The corridor beyond the shaft appeared temporarily abandoned, though energy signatures indicated active systems throughout the level. He established communication with Videl through the device's drive. Briefs had provided, keeping his voice low despite the apparent absence of immediate threats. "I've reached level 7. What's your position?" Videl's response came through with minor interference, suggesting energy field disruption between their locations. Approaching the incubation chamber from the southern access corridor. Minimal resistance so far. Maintenance routes appear to have reduced security coverage. Understood. Proceeding toward rendezvous point, Goku navigated through corridors that displayed increasing signs of recent activity, illuminated control panels, active energy conduits, and environmental systems adjusted for operational status rather than dormancy. Whatever triggered the facility's reactivation had thoroughly awakened this section. As he approached the designated rendezvous coordinates, Goku detected Videl's energy signature, her distinctive key pattern. Recognizable despite the surrounding technological interference, she had positioned herself at a junction that provided visual access to the incubation chamber's primary entrance while maintaining concealment from automated security systems. Goku joined her position with silent efficiency, noting her professional nod of acknowledgement as he arrived. Her attention remained focused on the chamber entrance, where significant energy fluctuations indicated active processes within. "Status report," he inquired quietly. "The chamber activated a new sequence approximately 3 minutes ago," Videl informed him. Displaying readings from her watch. Energy patterns suggest final preparation stages for whatever process they're running. Based on observation through the viewport, she indicated a crystalline panel providing limited visual access to the chamber interior. They appear to be cultivating organic material in controlled environments. Goku studied the visible section of the chamber through the viewport. The interior space featured multiple cylindrical tanks containing luminescent fluid, each housing what appeared to be developing biological forms at various stages of growth. Automated systems monitored and adjusted conditions within each tank, while energy fields maintained isolation between specimens. Most concerning was the central apparatus, a crystalline structure remark, ably similar to the one they'd observed at Mount Hakare, but significantly larger and more complex. Within this structure, suspended in a field of pulsing energy, was a form that appeared humanoid but with distinct non-human characteristics. Its development appeared more advanced than the specimens in the surrounding tanks. Primary subject, Goku identified, recognizing the central position's significance in the experimental configuration. The others are likely control groups or developmental stages. Videl checked readings on her watch, expression growing increasingly concerned. According to these energy patterns, the primary subject is approaching final development phase. Once complete, the system will likely initiate awakening protocols. The tactical situation required immediate decision: observe further to gather intelligence, or intervene to prevent completion of the experiment. Goku assessed variables including facility security response capabilities, unknown properties of the developing subjects, and potential consequences of both action and inaction. We need to disrupt the process before the primary subject reaches completion, he concluded. Based on what we encountered at Mount Hakare, these experiments involve combining Saiyan and demonic genetic material to create hybrid entities with unpredictable capabilities. Agreed, but direct confrontation presents significant risks, Videl cautioned. The chamber likely has dedicated security measures beyond what we've encountered so far. Goku studied the chamber's layout through the viewport, identifying critical systems and potential vulnerabilities. The developmental process requires precise environmental conditions and energy flow. Disrupt either, and the experiment fails safely without need for direct destruction. Videl followed his analysis, quickly grasping the tactical approach. The environmental regulation systems are accessible through that control station. She indicated a console position near the chamber's secondary entrance. If we can alter parameters outside sustainable ranges, the system should initiate emergency preservation protocols rather than completing the development cycle. The plan balanced effectiveness against risk, preventing the experiment's completion without triggering catastrophic security responses or endangering their extraction capabilities. It required access to the chamber, however, which presented the immediate challenge of bypassing entrance security. The primary entrance likely has genetic verification protocols similar to what we encountered earlier, Goku noted. But maintenance access points typically prioritize emergency response over security verification. Videl had already identified such an access point, a service panel designed for technical maintenance of environmental systems. This should bypass primary security but will trigger alerts once breached. We'll have limited time before automated responses and possibly GU on our position. They established tactical parameters for the operation. Goku would provide primary security coverage while Videl accessed the environmental controls, leveraging her technical expertise. Surprisingly extensive knowledge of the facility's systems. The objective timeline was approximately 3 minutes from breach to extraction, with contingency protocols established for potential complications. Ready, Goku confirmed, gathering energy through his breathing technique in preparation for potential security response. Videl nodded, her expression reflecting the calm focus of a operative rather than an amateur investigator. Ready, with synchronized timing, they executed their plan. Goku applied controlled force to the maintenance panel, causing it to reconfigure for access rather than triggering catastrophic failure. Videl slipped through the opening with practiced efficiency, immediately moving toward the environmental control station while maintaining minimal profile exposure. Goku followed, positioning himself to monitor both the chamber interior and the primary entrance, where security response would likely originate. The chamber's atmosphere carried a distinctive scent, clinical but with underlying organic components that suggested active biological processes beyond simple development. Videl reached the control station and began interfacing with its crystalline surface, her fingers moving with surprising familiarity across alien technology. These systems use base 12 mathematical protocols with biomechanical interface requirements, she explained without looking up from her work. Similar architecture to the fragments my father's team excavated 3 years ago before classifying the findings. The casual reference to previously undisclosed Said information raised questions about exactly how extensive Vidal's independent research had become, but tactical priorities superseded curiosity. Goku maintained vigilance as security systems thrug. How the chamber registered their presence, indicator lights shifting from steady illumination to pulsing patterns that suggested escalating alert status. We have approximately 90 seconds before automated security initiates containment protocols, he warned, detecting energy buildups in dormant systems throughout the chamber. Videl worked with increased urgency but maintained precise methodology, navigating through security protocols with unexpected expertise. Almost there. The system has multiple redundancies and fail-safes to prevent exactly what we're attempting. The primary subject, T in the central apparatus, showed physiological response to the security alerts, subtle movements and increased neural activity visible through the monitoring displays. Its development had progressed further than initial observation suggested, approaching self-sustainability that would render environmental disruption ineffective. The primary subject is reaching consciousness, Goku noted with concern. If it achieves awareness before we disrupt the systems. Got it, Videl announced with triumphant intensity. Her fingers executed a final sequence across the control interface, bypassing Te. Army now security protocols to access core environmental parameters. Initiating systemic disruption now. The chamber's environmental systems responded immediately, temperature regulation, atmospheric composition, and energy field harmonics all shifting beyond sustainable parameters. Warning indicators activated throughout the facility as automated systems detected critical deviations from experimental requirements. The developing specimens in peripheral tanks showed immediate stress responses, their biological processes destabilizing as preservation protocols activated to prevent complete deterioration. Stasis fields engaged around each tank, suspending developmental processes while emergency systems attempted to diagnose and correct the environmental failures. Most concerning was the primary subject's response. Unlike the peripheral specimens, it demonstrated active resistance to the preservation protocols, its energy signature intensifying as it appeared to draw power directly from the chamber's systems to maintain its developmental environment. It's adapting, Goku observed with growing concern, redirecting facility power to sustain its development independently of the environmental controls. That shouldn't be possible at this developmental stage, Videl responded, rapidly adjusting her approach at the control station. Unless the realization struck them simultaneously, the primary subject wasn't merely a new specimen but an entity with pre-existing capabilities being enhanced or transformed by the developmental process. Not creation, but modification. Security protocols reached critical threshold, activating dormant defense systems throughout the chamber. Energy barriers materialized at access points while what appeared to be weapon systems emerged from recessed sections of the walls and ceiling. Time to leave, Goku decided, assessing that their primary objective of disrupting the experiment had been achieved despite the subject's unexpected resistance. The facility would require significant recovery time to restore optimal conditions, creating opportunity for more comprehensive intervention with core resources. Videl disengaged from the control station, having implemented final disruption sequences that would require manual override to correct. The primary environmental systems are locked in destructive oscillation. Even with direct power supply, the subject can't maintain stability indefinitely. They retreated toward their entry point as the chamber's security systems fully activated, automated response protocols initiating containment procedures designed to capture rather than eliminate. Energy fields attempted to establish perimeter barriers while mechanical systems deployed capture mechanisms similar to those employed by the Guardian units. Goku shifted his breathing technique to enhance speed and evasive capabilities, golden energy forming protective fields that disrupted the automated targeting systems. Solar breathing, movement form, flash step. His enhanced speed allowed him to navigate between security measures while creating disruptions that provided vital safe extraction paths. She demonstrated remarkable adaptability, anticipating his movements and exploiting the openings he created with precision that belied her limited experience with such situations. They reached the maintenance access point Zhu. T is the chamber's primary entrance open to admit Guardian units responding to the security breach. 4 crystalline entities entered with weapons deployed, immediately identifying the intruders and initiating pursuit protocols. Go, Goku urged, positioning himself between Videl and the approaching Guardians. "I'll follow once you're clear." Videl hesitated only momentarily before recognizing the tactical necessity of their separation. She slipped through the maintenance access with efficiency born of training in natural athleticism, immediately beginning ascent through the service shaft beyond. Goku faced the approaching Guardians, gathering solar energy through his breathing technique as he prepared to create sufficient disruption for his own extraction. Solar breathing, 7th form, sunspot impact. Concentrated energy coalesced around his fist as he struck the chamber floor with calculated force, creating a shockwave that disrupted the Guardians' movement patterns without causing catastrophic structural damage. The momentary confusion provided the opening he needed to follow Videl through the maintenance access, sealing the panel behind him to delay pursuit. The serve, ice shaft provided direct vertical access to upper levels, though without the convenient deceleration fields of the emergency evacuation route. Goku ascended rapidly, using controlled bursts of energy to accelerate his climb while monitoring pursuit indicators below. The Guardian units had breached the maintenance panel and begun pursuit, though they'd the confined space with reduced efficiency. Videl maintained impressive climbing speed ahead of him, her physical conditioning evident in the smooth, economical movements that maximized upward progress while conserving energy. She glanced down at his approach, relief briefly visible in her expression before professional focus returned. "The disruption is holding," she reported as they continued their ascent. "Facility systems are attempting to compensate, but the oscillation pattern I established creates cascading failures that prevent stabilization." The primary subject was unlike the others, Goku noted, the distinction increasing. Significant as he processed their observations. "Not a new creation but something being modified or enhanced. I noticed structural similarities to recovered specimens from previous incidents," Videl confirmed. "But with significant modifications at the cellular level. Whatever they're developing, it builds upon existing templates rather than creating entirely new forms." They reached an ACC S.4 levels above the incubation chamber, emerging into a corridor that showed signs of recent activation after millennia of dormancy. Emergency protocols had engaged throughout the facility, with indicator lights signaling evacuation sequences and security lockdowns in alternating sections. "The facility is implementing containment procedures," Goku observed, sensing energy patterns shifting throughout the complex. "Isolating critical sections while sacrificing peripheral areas. Standard quarantine protocol," Videl agreed, checking readings on her watch. "It's protecting Y systems and specimens while allocating resources to contain the environmental disruption. Their extraction route required navigating through increasingly unstable sections of the facility as SIST. Ms. prioritized core functions over peripheral maintenance. Structural integrity in older sections had begun deteriorating as power redirected to critical operations, creating hazards beyond the pursuing Guardian units. They proceeded with tactical discipline, Videl demonstrating situational awareness that complemented Goku's enhanced sensory capabilities. Where he detected energy fluctuations and security responses, she identified structural vulnerabilities and system behaviors that informed their navigation decisions. "You've studied these facilities extensively," Goku observed as they navigated a particularly complex junction where multiple corridors intersected beneath a crystalline dome. "Beyond what your equipment should allow." Videl maintained focus on their route but answered with unexpected candor. "My father didn't build his empire from nothing. The original Saiyan dojo was constructed above these ruins for a reason. The founding documents I mentioned, they were his grandfather's research notes, detailing preliminary excavations and artifact recovery decades before anyone acknowledged extraterrestrial visitors." The revelation added context to Videl's exceptional knowledge and her father's peculiar combination of public denial and private investigation. "He knows what's down here. He knows something is down here," Videl corrected, her voice carrying complex emotions beneath professional discipline. "But he's built a worldview and public persona that can't accommodate the truth. So he buries the evidence, classifies the research, and pretends the world is exactly what his fans believe it to be." They reached the catacombs level, where the facility's ancient technology gave way to human construction from various historical periods. The Guardian units had fallen behind, presumably reassigned to containment priorities within the core facility as emergency protocols superseded intruder capture. And you decided to continue the research he abandoned. Goku concluded as they navigated through the narrow passages of the catacombs, now illuminated by emergency lighting systems that had activated during the facility disruption. Someone had to, Videl replied with quiet intensity. People were disappearing. Strange energy signatures were appearing across the city. Official channels dismissed the patterns while classified technologies gathered dust in secured storage facilities. Her pace never faltered despite the emotional undercurrent in her voice. I started training specifically to investigate what others wouldn't acknowledge. The personal motivation explained her exceptional combat preparation and technical knowledge, skills developed with purpose rather than general interest. Videl Satan wasn't merely rebelling against her father's public persona. She was systematically preparing to confront threats he had chosen to ignore. They reached the original staircase leading to the historical section of the Satan Dojo complex, emerging into the relative normality of human architecture after the alien environment below. The transition was jarring. Display cases of martial arts memorabilia and photographs of champions past standing in stark contrast to the ancient technology and existential revelations they'd just encountered. The facility disruption will buy us time, Goku assessed as they secured the hidden entrance to the catacombs. But Zenith's operations clearly extend beyond isolated experiments. The network connecting these facilities suggests coordinated activity across multiple sites. Videl nodded in agreement, her professional demeanor maintained despite their successful extraction. I'll compile our findings with my previous research. There are patterns in the energy signatures and disappearances that might indicate their next focus area. They navigated through the historical section toward the service corridors Videl had used for their initial entry. The Satan Dojo complex continued normal operations above, completely unaware of the ancient facility awakening beneath its foundations or the confrontation that had temporarily disrupted millennia-old experiments. The Corps will want a full report, Goku noted as they approached an exit that would return them to the public areas of the entertainment district. And Capsule Corporation's resources could help analyze the data you've collected. Videl hesitated at the threshold between hidden infrastructure and public space, her expression reflecting internal conflict. My research, it's not exactly obtained through official channels. Some of it comes from classified sources my father doesn't know I can access. The admission explained the exceptional detail and accuracy of her information but raised questions about operational security and potential legal complications. Goku considered implications before responding. The situation transcends conventional boundaries, he observed. Zenith's operations represent an existential threat that requires all available intelligence, regardless of how it was obtained. Relief visibly softened Videl's expression, professional vindication rather than personal gratitude. I've been working alone because official channels either deny the problem exists or classify it beyond practical usefulness. If the Corps and Capsule Corporation are taking this seriously, they are, Goku confirmed. And your knowledge of the Satan City facility provides context we couldn't have obtained otherwise. The partnership that had begun as tactical necessity had evolved into something more significant. Mutual respect between operatives with complementary capabilities and shared purpose. Videl's technical expertise and methodical research combined with Goku's enhanced abilities and experience created an effective investigative team against threats that defied conventional classification. They emerged into the bustling entertainment district, adjusting seamlessly from covert operators to ordinary visitors navigating the crowded plaza. The Satan Dojo complex continued its normal operations, giant screens displaying highlights from the champion's career while tourists purchased memorabilia and took photographs beside promotional displays. We should establish secure communication protocols, Goku suggested Plaza's perimeter, where their paths would necessarily diverge. The disruption we caused will accelerate Zenith's timeline. We need to coordinate our next steps. Videl nodded in agreement, already adapting her watch settings to establish encrypted connections with Goku's communication device. I have access to secure channels that bypass standard monitoring systems. We can coordinate through those without triggering automated surveillance. The technical capabilities she saws ally demonstrated further confirmed Goku's assessment of her as an exceptional investigative resource whose value transcended her combat abilities. Videl Satan had developed operational methodologies and information networks that rivaled professional intelligence organizations, all while maintaining the public persona of a championship martial artist. "One question before we separate," Goku said, as they completed the communication setup. "Your key control, it's remarkably developed for someone without formal training in energy manipulation. How did you develop those capabilities?" Videl answered the question with uncharacteristic hesitation before responding. "When I was 14, I encountered something in the catacombs, an artifact my father's researchers had missed in their preliminary surveys. It reacted to my presence differently than others who had handled it." She absently touched a point just below her collarbone, where Goku detected a subtle energy signature distinct from her natural ki. "After that, I began perceiving energy patterns. The control developed through martial arts training, but the perception itself was activated somehow." The implication was significant. Ancient technology capable of modifying human perception or perhaps awakening latent capabilities that existed within certain genetic profiles. It explained Videl's unusual aptitude for energy detect, ion and manipulation without formal breathing techniques or key training. "The artifact, do you still have access to it?" Goku inquired, recognizing potential relevance to their investigation of Saiyan demon hybridization experiments. "My father's security team confiscated it along with other recovered materials," Videl replied with evident frustration. "It's stored in a secured facility beneath the main arena complex. But I've documented its effects extensively in my research." Their conversation was interrupted by a public announcement echoing across the plaza. Mr. Saiyan's press conference had concluded, and the champion was returning to the main complex for a scheduled public appearance. Security personnel began clearing paths through the crowd in preparation for his arrival. "We should separate before complications arise," Goku suggested, recognizing the tactical disadvantage of potential confrontation with Saiyan's security team. "I'll report our findings to the Corps in Cordina with Capsule Corporation for analysis of the facility's energy patterns." Videl nodded in agreement, professional focus returning as she mentally shifted back to her public role. "I'll compile my research on energy signature patterns and disappearance clusters. If Zenith's operations follow consistent protocols, we might predict their next activation site." They parted with the efficient acknowledgement of operatives rather than the social conventions of casual acquaintances, mutual respect established through shared experience rather than formal introduction. As Goku navigated away from the entertainment district, he reflected on the unexpected alliance formed beneath Saiyan City. Videl Saiyan represented something increasingly rare in a world of specialized organizations and compartmentalized knowledge. A generalist investigator whose methods transcended conventional boundaries and whose motivation stemmed from personal conviction rather than institutional directives. Her combination of combat proficiency, technical expertise, and methodical research methodology created an operational profile perfectly suited to confronting threats that existed between classified categories. Sun began its descent toward the western horizon as Goku departed Saiyan City, casting long shadows across the urban landscape that concealed ancient secrets beneath modern extravagance. The knowledge they had gained represented progress but emphasized how much remained unknown about Zenith's operations and the historical connection between Saiyans and demons. As he established secure communication with Corps headquarters to report their findings, Goku maintained awareness of the energy patterns flowing beneath the city, rhythms temporarily disrupted but not defeated, ancient systems recalibrating after momentary setback. The confrontation had only begun, but for the first time since discovering the hybridization experiments, he had encountered an ally whose capabilities and conviction the scope of the threat they faced. The partnership formed beneath Saiyan City would prove crucial in the challenges ahead, as Zenith's millennia-old plans accelerated toward completion across a network of awakening facilities. Whatever evolution the ancient scientist had envisioned, whatever merger of Saiyan and demon it sought to perfect, the forces opposing it had gained both knowledge and alliance essential to confronting what was to come. Chapter 2 End. Chapter 3. Blood and Circuitry. Raindrops sliced through artificial light, transforming the neon-soaked industrial district into a kaleidoscope of fractured color. The abandoned Gero Cybernetics building, once the crown jewel of East City's technological renaissance, loomed against the midnight sky like the skeletal remains of a fallen titan. Lightning cracked the darkness, illuminating shattered windows and crumbling concrete facades where corporate logos had long since faded into obscurity. Lazuli approached the derelict structure with methodical precision, each step calculated to minimize sound against the rain-slicked pavement. Her ash-blonde hair clung to her face despite the hood of her black waterproof jacket, and her ice-blue eyes reflected nothing of the storm's chaos as they systematically analyzed the perimeter defenses, both visible and concealed. The security system had been reactivated recently, she noted. New components grafted onto decades-old infrastructure with the desperate ingenuity of someone working with salvaged parts. More interesting was the energy signature emanating from the substructure. A pulsing rhythm that registered on both her internal scanners and the specialized detection equipment she'd acquired from less than legitimate sources. Not purely technological, not purely biological, something between defined states, exactly what she'd been hunting for 6 months. Facility power consumption increased 317% over the past week, came a synthetic voice from the communicator secured at her wrist. Inconsistent with standard equipment operation or human habitation patterns. I can see that. 16, Lazuli replied, her tone betraying only the faintest hint of affection for her massive, red-haired companion who maintained surveillance from a nearby rooftop. The question is whether they're receiving outside power or generating it internally. Analysis suggests internal generation, the synthetic voice confirmed. Energy signature contains harmonic distortions consistent with previous samples. Previous samples. Clinically sterile terminology for the blood-soaked facilities they'd investigated across 3 continents, each revealing fragments of experimentation that blended demonic essence with cybernetic enhancement. Each facility abandoned just before their arrival, as if their quarry remained perpetually one step ahead. Maintain perimeter monitoring, she instructed. Alert me to any approach within 1 kilometer. Acknowledged. Exercise caution, sister. The familial designation wasn't technically accurate. Their programming contained no genetic relationship markers, but 16's emotional evolution had developed such attachments despite his combat-focused design. Lazuli found she didn't mind. In a blurred boundaries between human and other, such connections provided welcome anchoring. She approached the building's eastern entrance, where loading docks once received shipments of specialized materials for the corporation's more classified projects. The security panel beside the reinforced door had been modified with components she recognized from military-grade installations, technology that shouldn't be available to civilian organizations, let alone whoever was squatting in an abandoned research facility. Lazuli placed her palm against the scanner, allowing her internal systems to interface with the security architecture. Her cybernetic enhancements, originally designed for combat but repurposed through her own modifications, Ludded infiltration capabilities specifically calibrated for such barriers. Primitive, she murmured as her systems bypassed successive security layers with minimal resistance. But recently updated, the final firewall presented unexpected resistance, adaptive algorithms that responded to her intrusion attempts with countermeasures suggesting artificial intelligence rather than programmed responses. Interesting, but ultimately futile against her capabilities. The massive door released with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a loading bay consumed by darkness. Lazuli's enhanced vision adjusted instantly, revealing details invisible to human perception. The space appeared abandoned at first glance, empty shipping containers and disused equipment gathering dust beneath cobweb-shrouded ceiling fixtures. But the dust patterns told a different story. Recent activity had disturbed decades of accumulated grime, creating pathways across the concrete floor that converged toward a freight elevator at the chamber's far end. Most telling were the drag marks, wide, irregular patterns suggesting heavy objects had been transported recently, some leaving faint traces of an unidentifiable substance that her sensors registered as neither fully organic nor inorganic. Lazuli approached the elevator, noting that unlike the deteriorating structure surrounding it, this system had been meticulously maintained and enhanced with technology that hadn't existed when the facility was operational. The control panel featured biometric security that would have deterred most intruders. Power consumption patterns shifting, 16 reported through her communicator. Activity detected in sublevels B3 through B5. Acknowledged, Lazuli responded quietly, interfacing with the elevator's controls through direct contact with the panel. Estimated personnel count, Thermal signatures indicate 17 mobile entities, classification uncertain. Energy patterns suggest non-standard biology. Non-standard biology. Another clinically detached description of what they both understood too well. Beings neither fully human nor fully demonic, enhanced with technological components similar to their own cyber NETIC systems but corrupted by elements that defied scientific classification. The elevator doors opened silently, revealing a cabin retrofitted with additional security measures and monitoring systems. Lazuli entered cautiously, aware that her presence was likely already detected despite her infiltration precautions. Direct confrontation wasn't her preferred approach, but she had prepared for the possibility. The descent was smooth despite the facility's age, suggesting recent mechanical overhauls to the transport systems. Indicator panels showed 5 sublevels beneath the main structure, W.ITH her destination, B4, highlighted as currently active. The energy signature grew stronger as the elevator descended, her internal systems registering increasing complexity in the pattern harmonics. When the doors opened, Lazuli stepped into a corridor that bore little resemblance to the decaying structure above. Pristine white surfaces reflected harsh LED lighting, while transparent conduits ran along the ceiling carrying a luminescent fluid that pulsed with the same rhythm as the energy signature she'd been tracking. The facility had been completely repurposed, its original research infrastructure adapted to serve functions its designers never intended. She moved silently through the corridor, cataloging security cameras and motion sensors with practiced efficiency. Most were standard designs she could easily bypass, but occasional components displayed technological sophistication beyond current market availability, prototypes or custom designs integrating principles she recognized from her own internal systems. The corridor opened into a central hub where multiple passages converged around a circular chamber visible through transparent walls. Within this chamber, figures in WH ITE hazmat suits worked at stations surrounding a central apparatus that dominated the space, a cylindrical tank filled with the same luminescent fluid flowing through the ceiling conduits. Suspended within this tank was a humanoid form, its features obscured by a web of cables and monitoring devices connected to its body. Even from this distance, Lazuli's enhanced vision detected the unnatural co-M position of the suspended subject, organic components fused with technological enhancements in a manner reminiscent of her own cybernetic structure, but with crucial differences that registered as fundamentally wrong to her analytical systems. They're attempting integration without proper interface architecture, she observed quietly, her voice transmitting to 16 through their secure channel. The biological components are rejecting the technological implants. Similar to failure patterns in facilities 7 and 9, 16 noted. They require a stabilizing element. Lazuli focus. Her scanning systems on the suspended subject, analyzing its composition at the molecular level. They're using demon blood as a bonding agent between organic tissue and cybernetic components. The regenerative properties facilitate integration, but something's causing instability in the neural pathways. Her attention shifted to a secondary chamber adjacent to the main laboratory, visible through a smaller observation window. This space contained what appeared to be failed experiments, humanoid forms in various states of deterioration, their bodies displaying grotesque malformations where technological components had been rejected by host tissues. Most disturbing were the subjects displaying partial demonic transformation, limbs elongated beyond human proportion, skin textured with hardened plates resembling armor. Facial features distorted with predatory adaptations. These specimens showed more successful technology integration but at the cost of human characteristics. Their approaching the problem from the wrong direction, Lazuli realized, her analytical mind processing implications faster than even advanced computing systems could calculate. They're trying to enhance humans with both demonic essence and technology, but the integration requires a specific sequence. Clarify, 16 requested. Our enhancements worked because they were integrated with human tissue under specific conditions. Lazuli explained, recalling fragments of her own transformation process preserved in memory despite attempts to erase them. These subjects are receiving technological enhancements simultaneously with demonic infusion. The competing adaptation processes are creating genetic instability. A sudden shift in the laboratory activity caught her attention. The researchers had abandoned their workstations and converged around the central tank, their body language communicating urgency even through the hazmat suits. Monitoring displays showed accelerating changes in the suspended subject, energy readings spiking beyond established parameters. "Something's happening," Lazuli reported, her internal systems automatically recording the event for later analysis. The airy subject is undergoing spontaneous transformation. The luminescent fluid within the tank darkened as the suspended figure convulsed violently, cables detaching from connection points as its Buman anatomical limitations. The researchers initiated emergency protocols, some activating containment systems while others retreated toward sealed exits. Warning lights flashed throughout the facility as automated security measures engaged. The transparent barrier separating the laboratory from the observation area polarized, obscuring direct visual contact with the transformation occurring within. Lazuli's enhanced senses detected multiple energy signatures activating throughout the complex, defensive systems and perhaps additional experimental subjects responding to the emergency protocols. 16. Facility security systems are initiating lockdown procedures, she reported, calculating extraction options as alarm frequencies resonated through the structure. Continued covert observation may be compromised. Additional energy signatures detected approaching the facility, 16 responded, his synthetic voice maintaining perfect calm despite the implied complication. 2 entities, one registering unusual harmonic patterns consistent with specialized breathing techniques, the other, similar to samples recovered from Mount Hakare. The information adjusted Lazuli's tactical assessment immediately. Specialized breathing techniques suggested Demon Slayer core involvement, while similarities to Mount Hakare samples indicated Saiyan energy signatures. The coincidental timing of their arrival with the subject's transformation seemed improbable. Probability analysis, she requested, already moving toward a secondary observation position with better evacuation options. 91.3% probability that the approaching entities are tracking the same energy signature we detected, 16 calculated. 73.8% probability they represent official investigation rather than facility personnel. Before Lazuli could respond, a catastrophic energy surge emanated from the central laboratory. The transparent barriers shattered outward as the containment systems failed, sending shards flying across the observation area. The luminescent fluid that had filled the tank now spread across the laboratory floor, carrying electrical charges that disabled equipment on contact. Through the breached barrier, Lazuli observed the transformed subject, no longer recognizable as the humanoid form that had been suspended in the tank. Its body had reconfigured into something that defied biological classification. With multiple limbs composed of both organic components and technological structures extending from a central mass that pulsed with energy patterns her system struggled to categorize. Most disturbing was its apparent intelligence. Unlike failed experiments she'd observed at other facilities, mindless abominations driven by instinct and pain, this entity moved with purpose, eastmatically targeting researchers with appendages that functioned as both biological weapons and technological instruments. The experiment didn't fail, Lazuli realized with dawning comprehension. It evolved beyond their parameters. The entity turned toward the observation area, sensory apparatus focusing directly on Lazuli's position despite her concealment precautions. It possessed perceptual capabilities that matched or exceeded her own enhanced systems, another indication that the integration had succeeded in ways the researchers hadn't anticipated. "I've been compromised," she reported calmly, shifting to combat readiness as the entity began moving toward her position. Initiating direct engagement. Negative, 16 countered with uncharacteristic urgency. The approaching entities have breached the facility perimeter. Extraction is recommended. Lazuli calculated variables with mechanical precision, weighing the value of direct confrontation against tactical withdrawal. The entity represented a significant intelligence opportunity, but engaging without complete understanding of its capabilities presented unacceptable risk percentages. Acknowledged. Proceeding to extraction point Alpha. She retreated from the observation area as facility systems continued deteriorating around her. Emergency barriers activated randomly as control systems failed, creating an unpredictable obstacle course through corridors that had been navigable moments before. Her internal mapping functions continuously recalculated optimal routes as available pathways changed. Behind her, the entity moved with disturbing speed, navigating the chaotic environment with an efficiency that suggested either facility familiarity or advanced adaptive capabilities. Its movements produced sounds that registered across multiple frequency ranges, mechanical components functioning alongside organic structures in unnatural harmony. Lazuli reached a junction where 3 corridors converged. Around an emergency stairwell, one of 7 vertical access routes she'd identified during initial facility assessment. The reinforced door designed to preserve structural integrity during catastrophic failures had activated, sealing the stairwell against unauthorized access. She interfaced directly with the control panel, her cybernetic systems bypassing standard security protocols to initiate emergency override sequences. The door began its opening cycle just as the entity rounded the corner behind her, its sensory apparatus focusing with predatory intensity. Target identified. Lazuli, designation Android 18. It vocalized in a multi-toned voice that layered mechanical precision over organic resonance. Integration template alpha. The recognition froze Lazuli momentarily, not from fear but from analytical shock. The entity possessed information about her identity and designation that existed in only a handful of databases worldwide, all secured behind military-grade encryption. "How do you know that designation?" she demanded, buying seconds for the emergency door to complete its cycle while calculating combat probabilities if extraction failed. "We share creation parameters," the entity responded, its form reconfiguring as it approached, limbs retracting and extending in patterns that optimized its structure for the confined space. "Your integration architecture provides baseline sequences for our evolution." The implications cascaded through Lazuli's analytical processes. The entity wasn't merely similar to her cybernetic systems, it had been developed using data specific to her integration methodology. Someone had accessed her structural schematics and applied them to this hybridization experiment. The emergency door completed its cycle, providing access to the stairwell beyond. Lazuli prepared to retreat through the opening when the entity suddenly halted its advance, sensory apparatus redirecting toward the corridor extending to her right. Additional integration templates detected, it announced, prioritization sequences visible in its reconfiguration pattern. Primary directive activating. The entity abandoned its pursuit of Lazuli, redirecting toward the new targets with single-minded purpose. Through the connecting corridor, she detected approaching energy signatures matching 16's earlier report, the specialized breathing technique practitioner and the Saiyan consistent energy pattern. Tactical assessment shifted from self-preservation to information gathering. The entity's reaction to these new arrivals suggested programmed priorities that superseded even its interest in her integration architecture. Understanding these priorities could provide crucial insight into the purpose behind these experiments. Lazuli adjusted her extraction plan, moving to an observation position with multiple escape vectors while maintaining visual contact with the approaching confrontation. The entity had positioned itself at the corridor junction, reconfiguring into what appeared to be an ambush formation optimized for confined space engagement. The approaching figures emerged into visual range, a man and woman moving with the coordinated efficiency of trained operatives. The woman's distinctive uniform identified her immediately as a Hashira of the Demon Slayer Corps, the pinking hair and customized blade design specifying her as Mitsuri Kanroji, the Love Hashira. Her companion wore simpler attire, a dark blue GI with orange accents, but moved with a fluid confidence that suggested exceptional combat experience. Most interesting was the energy signature emanating from this second figure, a controlled pattern that Lazuli's systems identified as consistent with Saiyan physiology but modulated through respiratory techniques that altered its fundamental characteristics. Specialized breathing techniques combined with alien biology, an integration methodology paralleling her own cybernetic enhancements but through entirely different mechanisms. "The signal's strongest just ahead," the man noted, his voice carrying the calm certainty of someone accustomed to dangerous situations. "But there's something else. Some kind of technological component I haven't encountered before." "Agreed," the Hashira responded, her hand moving to the hilt of her Nichiren blade with practiced ease. "The demonic presence feels fractured somehow, distributed rather than concentrated." They approached the junction cautiously, clearly sensing the entity's presence despite its ambush positioning. The man shifted his breathing pattern subtle. A change imperceptible to normal human perception but registering clearly on Lazuli's enhanced sensors. Energy gathered around him in a golden aura that fluctuated with his respiratory rhythm. Solar breathing, Lazuli identified, accessing archived data on specialized techniques that had been included in her intelligence databases. A rare methodology predating standard demon slayer breathing forms, historically associated with purification rather than destruction. The entity struck without warning, multiple appendages extending simultaneously from its concealed position. The attack pattern. N demonstrated tactical intelligence, primary strikes targeting the Hashira's blade arm while secondary appendages moved to separate the pair and disrupt their coordinated defense. Their response Rev. Aled exceptional training and combat experience. The Hashira evaded with impossible flexibility, her body contorting around attacking appendages while simultaneously drawing her blade in a motion too fluid for standard human musculature. Her companion moved with equal efficiency, golden energy concentrating around his hands as he intercepted mechanical components with precision strikes. Love breathing, third form, passionate cleave. The Hashira's blade traced a complex pattern through the air, slicing through 3 appendages before they could retract. The severed components continued functioning independently, suggesting distributed control systems rather than centralized command architecture. The man adapted his approach immediately, recognizing the tactical implication. They're operating independently. Focus on the central mass. His assessment aligned with Lazuli's analysis. The entity's distributed intelligence made targeting peripheral components inefficient. The central mass contained primary processing architecture that coordinated the semi-autonomous appendages. Solar breathing, fifth form, corona penetration. The man's technique manifested as concentrated energy that coalesced around his extended hand, forming what appeared to be a spear of golden light. He launched forward with impossible speed, the energy construct aimed directly at the entity's central mass. The entity responded with unexpected adaptability, reconfiguring its structure to create a defensive formation that dispersed the energy impact across multiple components. Technological Systems WI. Thin its structure activated countermeasures that absorbed portions of the attack's energy, while organic components demonstrated regenerative properties consistent with demonic essence. It's adapting to our techniques, the Hashira observed, maintaining defensive positioning as severed appendages continued functioning around them. And the separated parts aren't dissolving like standard demons. The technological components are sustaining them, the man confirmed, adjusting his breathing pattern as he reassessed their opponent. We need to disrupt the integration between systems. Their tactical analysis impressed Lazuli, rapid assessment and adaptation based on observed capabilities rather than preconceived strategies. These weren't merely skilled combatants but experienced investigators who understood the principles behind what they faced. The entity initiated a secondary attack phase, appendages reconfiguring into more specialized offensive structures. Mechanical components transformed into weaponized configurations, while organic elements manifested characteristics consistent with high-level demonic abilities, hardened exoskeletons, acidic secretions, and accelerated regeneration. It's demonstrating multiple blood demon art variations simultaneously, the Hashira noted with professional concern. That shouldn't be possible for a single entity. It's not a single entity, the man replied, his understanding aligning with Lazuli's own analysis. It's a composite. Multiple demonic essences integrated with technological architecture. The tactical situation deteriorated rapidly as the entity's capabilities continued expanding. Appendages multiplied through what appeared to be accelerated mitosis, while technological components reconfigured to enhance structural integrity against conventional attacks. The corridor quickly filled with writhing mechanical organic constructs that functioned as both attack vectors and defensive barriers. Lazuli calculated orating success probabilities for the Demon Slayer team. Despite their exceptional skills, they faced an opponent specifically designed to counter traditional combat methodologies. The entity's adaptive capabilities and distributed intelligence created an asymmetric engagement that conventional techniques couldn't easily overcome. Strategic intervention became tactically justified. The entity resented a significant threat beyond the immediate confrontation. Its technological integration suggested proliferation potential that could compromise multiple security protocols, including those protecting her own operational security. 16. She communicated through their secure channel. Intervention assessment. Tactical advantage. Significant, came the immediate response. Intelligence gathering potential, optimal. Operational security risk, acceptable. Decision made, lazily shifted to direct engagement positioning. Her cybernetic systems activated combat protocols, energy distribution. Ibutian optimizing for high-intensity confrontation while maintaining operational reserves for extraction if necessary. She launched from her observation position with mechanical precision, calculati. Ing an intercept trajectory that would maximize initial impact while minimizing exposure to counter-response. Her enhanced strength and speed allowed movement beyond human capability, crossing the int. Arvening space before the entity could fully register her approach. Target identified. Central processing node, she announced clinically, her hand penetrating the entity's defensive formation to STR. Ike directly at a junction where technological components integrated with organic tissue. The precision strike delivered a concentrated energy pulse that disrupted the integration patterns, maintaining the entity's distributed functionality. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the entity's coordination. Appendages spasmed uncontrollably as command signals fragmented across partially disconnected systems. The central mass contracted defensively, reallocating resources to repair the disrupted integration architecture. The Demon Slayer team reacted to her intervention with professional adaptation rather than surprise. Immediately recognizing the tactical opportunity she'd created, the Hashira repositioned with fluid grace, her blade tracing complex patterns that systematically SEPA. Rated technological components from organic tissue throughout the entity's structure. Solation form. Daybreak severance. The man's technique manifested differently from his previous attack, less destructive force and more precise energy application. Golden light spread through the entity's organic components, disrupting the demonic essence's ability to maintain integration with the technological architecture. Lazuli recognized the strategic approach, targeting the connection between systems rather than attempting to destroy the entity directly. Their combined methodology demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of integration principles similar to her own analytical conclusions. The central node is attempting to re-establish connections, she informed them, her enhanced senses detect. Ing energy patterns reorganizing within the damaged structure. Estimate 17 seconds before partial functionality returns. Neither appeared startled by her technical assessment or questioned her sudden alliance. The Hashira merely nodded acknowledgement while maintaining her systematic dismantling of the entity's peripheral structures. The man adjusted his technique's application, concentra. Ting purification energy directly on the central node. Can you isolate the command architecture? He inquired, his voice betraying no strain despite the obvious energy expenditure his technique required. If we can extract the core programming, we might determine who created this thing. The request demonstrated priorities beyond immediate tactical resolution, intelligence gathering rather than simple threat neutralization. Another indication these weren't conventional Demon Slayer core operatives but specialized investigators with broader mission parameters. Affirmative, Lazuli confirmed, her cybernetic systems already interfacing with the entity's damaged architecture. Initiating data extraction protocols, she established direct connection with the technological components, CYB. RNETIC interfaces bypassing damaged communication pathways to access core programming. What she discovered confirmed her earlier hypothesis, integration methodologies based partially on her own enhancement architecture but modified with additional parameters drawn from multiple sources. Programming contains elements from 7 distinct sources, she reported as extraction progressed. Primary architecture resembles Gero Cybernetics core design with significant modifications. Secondary systems incorporate components consistent with my designation. The man's expression registered recognition at her hesitation. You're Android 18. The identification should have triggered defensive protocols. Her designation was classified information outside specific organizations, but Lazuli's threat assessment remained unchanged. This individual possessed information beyond standard clearance but demonstrated no hostile intent regarding her identity. That designation is technically obsolete, shish. E replied without interrupting her extraction process. I prefer Lazuli. Goku. He introduced simply. And this is Hashira Kanroji. A pleasure under different circumstances, the Hashira acknowledged. Completing her systematic dismantling of the entity's peripheral structures. As the data extraction providing actionable intelligence. Partial, Lazuli confirmed, processing information STR. EAMS as they transferred to her internal storage. The entity was designed as a prototype integration platform, testing compatibility between demonic essence and technological enhancement using my integration architecture as a template. Testing for what purpose? Goku asked, maintaining his purification technique while engaging in tactical discussion, another indication of exceptional training and capacity. Mass production, Lazuli answered, the extracted data revealing disturbing operational parameters. This facility was developing integration methodologies for scaled application. The Central node contains production specifications for thousands of units with varying capability configurations. The implications silenced further questions momentarily as all three processed the strategy. I see threat such production would represent. An army of entities combining demonic adaptive capabilities with advanced technological integration could overwhelm conventional defense systems, including He Demon Slayer Corp's specialized methodologies. The entity's central mass collapsed suddenly, integration architecture failing catastrophically as Lazuli completed her extraction of critical data pathways. The organic components began rapid decomposition consistent with demonic essence deprived of sustaining energy, while technological elements deactivated as command protocols dissolved. We should evacuate immediately, Lazuli advised, detecting systematic failures spreading throughout the facility's infrastructure. The entity was integrated with primary facility systems. Its destruction is triggering cascading failures in structural integrity mechanisms. Her assessment proved accurate as warning systems throughout the complex activated simultaneously, emergency lighting shifting evacuation patterns while automated announcements echoed through the corridors. Structural supports began yielding to stresses they were designed to withstand, suggesting sabotage protocols embedded within the entity's operational parameters. Self-destruction failsafe, Goku identified, already moving toward the emergency stairwell Lazuli had previously accessed. Whoever designed this thing didn't want it studied if captured. They proceeded through the deteriorating facility with coordinated efficiency, navigating obstacles as structural components failed around them. The Hashira took point position, her exceptional agility allowing her to identify stable pathways through increasingly unstable architecture. Goku maintained mid-formation positioning, ready to reinforce weakening structures with his energy techniques if necessary. Lazuli followed, her enhanced systems continuously calculating structural failure probabilities to optimize their evacuation route. Additional life signs detected on sublevel B5, she reported as her scanners identified energy signatures beneath their position. Consistent with research personnel but with irregular biological parameters. Survivors are more experiments, the Hashira questioned without breaking stride. Insufficient data for classification, Lazuli admitted. But they're behind containment barriers designed to withstand facility collapse. Goku's expression reflected the ethical calculation such information presented, potential rescue operation versus escape prioritization. Can they survive without extraction? Contain them. ENT systems are designed for emergency preservation, Lazuli confirmed after analyzing architectural specifications. Occupants would enter suspended animation until recovery operations can be initiated. The information appeared to satisfy immediate ethical concerns while maintaining evacuation priority, another indication of professional operational discipline rather than emotional decision-making. They continued upward through emergency stairwells where automated systems had failed, requiring manual navigation of security barriers and structural obstacles. They reached the facility's ground D level as catastrophic failures began consuming the sublevels beneath them. The loading bay Lazuli had initially infiltrated now displayed extensive structural damage, with support columns yielding ND floor sections collapsing into newly formed voids. Exit strategies. The Hashira inquired, assessing the deteriorating environment with professional calm. Western loading dock, Lazuli directed, identifying the path with highest survival probability. Reinforced for heavy equipment transport, structural integrity should outlast surrounding sections. They navigated through the collapsing bay, avoiding falling debris and unstable floor sections with coordinated movements that suggested practiced teamwork despite their recent alliance. When a support beam unexpectedly failed, blocking their primary route, Goku responded without rethink, structural form, pillar reinforcement. Golden energy manifested around his hands before transferring to key structural points, temporarily reinforcing failing components to maintain a viable passage. The technique demonstrated remarkable precision, not merely raw power application but calculated structural engineering through energy manipulation. They reached the western loading dock as subsidence accelerated throughout the facility, the ground floor beginning to yield as sublevel collapses created expanding sinkholes. The loading dock's reinforced platform provided temporary stability, but the access road beyond had already begun fracturing as ground movement propagated outward from the facility's epicenter. We need to clear the collapse radius, Lazuli calculated. Her systems projecting structural failure patterns based on observed progression. Estimate 200 meters minimum safe distance. 16. She communicated through their secure channel. Extraction coordinates updating. Proceed to position Delta 9 for rendezvous. Acknowledged, came the immediate response. Be advised. Additional energy signatures approaching from southern vector. Tactical assessment. Potential reinforcements for facility operations. The complication adjusted their immediate priorities from simple evacuation to potential secondary engagement. Lazuli shared the intelligence with her temporary allies, noting their immediate tactical adaptation, positions shifting to maintain evacuation momentum while preparing for potential confrontation. Demon Slayer Corps has operational teams on standby, the Hashira informed them, checking a communication device secured at her wrist. I can request immediate support. Negative, Lazuli countered, tactical calculation prioritizing operational security over reinforcement advantages. Additional personnel would complicate extraction and compromise intelligence containment. Goku nodded agreement. We have what we came for. Confirmation of technological integration with demonic essence and intelligence on potential mass production. Confrontation with facility reinforcements provides minimal strategic advantage. Their aligned assessment further confirmed Lazuli's evaluation of these individuals as specialized operatives rather than conventional Demon Slayer personnel. Prioritizing intelligence security over combat engagement reflected strategic thinking beyond tactical response protocols. They proceeded from the loading dock across fracturing terrain, maintaining optimal dispersal pattern while advancing toward the calculated safe perimeter. Behind them, the Gero Cybernetics facility continued its structural collapse, sublevel failures propagating upward with increasing momentum as support systems failed sequentially. When they reached the minimum safe distance Lazuli had calculated, a final catastrophic failure consumed the facility's remaining structure. The main building imploded with remarkable precision, collapsing inward rather than dispersing debris across surrounding areas, further evidence of designed destruction protocols rather than natural structural failure. Controlled demolition, Goku observed, confirming Lazuli's assessment. Designed to eliminate evidence while minimizing external damage that might attract attention. Standard protocol for classified research facilities. Lazuli acknowledged, her cybernetic systems detecting approaching vehicles beyond the southern perimeter, presumably the reinforcements 16 had identified. We should establish cover position before facility response teams arrive. The Hashira indicated an abandoned warehouse complex approximately 400 meters northeast of their position. Those structures provide multiple extraction routes and reasonable defensibility if engagement becomes necessary. They redirected toward the suggested position, moving with practiced stealth despite the open terrain between positions. Lazuli noted how her temporary allies adjusted their movement patterns to complement her capabilities, neither slowing their pace to accommodate perceived limitations nor creating tactical vulnerabilities through unnecessary acceleration. The warehouse complex had clearly been abandoned for decades, its structural integrity compromised by neglect rather than recent activity. Loading bays stood open to the elements, their security doors long since stripped for salvageable materials. The central structure retained sufficient roof coverage to provide concealment from aerial observation, while multiple ground-level exits facilitated rapid departure if necessary. 16 will rendezvous here, Lazuli informed them as they established temporary operational positioning within the structure. His surveillance capabilities can confirm when facility response teams have withdrawn. Your partner? Goku inquired, his tone suggesting professional curiosity rather than interrogation. Associate, Lazuli corrected, maintaining operational boundaries despite their temporary alliance. We share investigation priorities regarding these integration experiments. T.H.E. Hashira, Mitsuri, observed their exchange with perceptive interest, her expression suggesting assessment beyond the verbal content. You've been tracking these experiments for some time, she noted. Quote, yet you haven't coordinated with official investigation channels. The observation carried no accusation but presented a legitimate security concern that Lazuli acknowledged as tactically valid. Official channels have containment priorities that sometimes conflict with intelligence gathering objectives. You're concerned they'd destroy evidence rather than study it, Goku translated, demonstra. Ting unexpected insight into institutional operational parameters. Because the technology resembles your own enhancements. The assessment was disconcertingly accurate, suggesting either exceptional analytical capabilities or prior knowledge regarding her operational motivations. Lazuli recalculated threat probabilities based on this demonstrated insight, but maintained her conclusion that alliance remained tactically advantageous. Correct, she confirmed simply. My integration architecture was never intended for mass application. Its adaptation for demonic enhancement represents significant and strategic threat beyond conventional classification parameters. Her temporary allies exchanged glances that communicated shared understanding without requiring verbalization, another indication O.F. established operational partnership rather than coincidental cooperation. Their silent communication suggested decision-making regarding continued alliance rather than immediate disengagement. We should compare intelligence, Goku suggested, confirming Lazuli's assessment of their deliberation. Your understanding of the technological components complements our investigation of the demonic integration methodologies. The proposal represented significant operational trust, information sharing between unaffiliated operatives without institutional authorization. Lazuli calculated risk-benefit probabilities, weighing operational security against intelligence advancement potential. Acceptable, she determined after comprehensive analysis. Limited exchange focusing on integration methodologies rather than operational parameters. They established improvised debriefing configuration within the warehouse structure, utilizing abandoned crates as makeshift seating while maintaining tactical awareness of their surroundings. 16's periodic status updates confirmed that facility response teams had established perimeter containment around the collapsed research center but showed no indication of expanding their search radius to include the warehouse complex. The entity you encountered demonstrates advancement beyond previous integration attempts, Lazuli began, prioritizing tech. HNICAL assessment over operational details. Earlier specimens showed rejection issues between technological components and demonic essence. This prototype achieved functional integration through enhancement architecture. You're saying they're using your cybernetic design as a template for creating demon tech hybrids, Mitsuri summarized with remarkable precision for someone presumably lacking technological specialization. How would they access such classified specifications? Unknown, Lazuli admitted, the question representing a significant security concern she had yet to resolve. My N-cement architecture should be inaccessible outside specific secure databases. Its application in these experiments suggests either unprecedented security breach or involvement from individuals with prior access authorization. Goku's expression reflected thoughtful consideration rather than immediate hypothesis. The integration methodology parallels what we discovered at Mount Hakare, but with technological components replacing Saiyan genetic material. The reference provided crucial contextual alignment. You've encountered similar integration experiments using different component variables. 3 confirmed facilities, Mitsuri elaborated, demonstrating unexpected willingness to share operational intelligence. Mount Hakare focused on Saiyan demon hybridization through genetic splicing. A second facility beneath Satan City contained historical records suggesting these experiments have continued for millennia. Your encounter represents a third methodology, technological integration rather than genetic. The information expanded Lazuli's tactical understanding significantly. What had appeared to be isolated technological exploitation now registered as component of larger operational pattern with historical precedent. The strategic implications extended beyond immediate security concerns to potential existential threat classification. Whoever is directing these experiments is pursuing multiple integration methodologies simultaneously, she concluded, analytical systems processing implications with mechanical efficiency. Testing variable approaches to determine optimal hybridization parameters. For what purpose? Mitsuri questioned, articulating the central investigative priority. Goku's expression darkened with recognition. Evolution beyond natural limitations. creating entities that combine advantages from multiple species while eliminating individual vulnerabilities. His assessment aligned with conclusions Lasley's systems had calculated but a sig.Ned low probability due to operational scale requirements. Such evolution would require unprecedented resources and coordination across multiple scientific disciplines. The technological infrastructure alone presents implementation barriers beyond conventional organizational capabilities. Unless the organization predates conventional classification, Goku countered, his hypothesis introducing variables Lasley hadn't fully integrated into her probability calculations. The facility beneath Satan City contained technology and documentation suggesting these experiments began thousands of years ago. When Saiyans first encountered Earth's indigenous species, the temporal expansion forced recalculation of resource limitations and organizational sustainability parameters. If these integrate-on experiments represented continuation of millennia-old research program rather than recent development, conventional resource constraints would require significant adjustment. Their intelligence exchange continued with remarkable efficiency, each providing component information that collectively assembled into comprehensive tactical assessment exceeding individual analytical capabilities. Lazul, I found herself impressed by her temporary allies' investigative methodology, systematic, evidence-based, and refreshingly devoid of institutional biases that typically constrained official operations. Most interesting was their combined expertise distribution. Mitsuri demonstrated exceptional knowledge regarding demonic classification and historical manifestation patterns, while Goku provided IGHTS connecting alien physiological principles with terrestrial adaptation methodologies. Their specializations complemented Lasley's technological expertise to create multidisciplinary analytical capability rarely achieved in conventional investigation teams. The name Zenith has appeared in connection with each facility, Mitsuri noted as they assembled chronological pattern analysis. Referen, CED is overseer or director of the integration experiments, though never physically present during investigation. Possibly organizational designation rather than individual identifier, Lasley suggested. Processing naming convention patterns against known operational structures. Historical documentation spanning millennia suggests institutional continuity rather than individual direction. Goku shook his head slightly. Conviction evident in his expression. The scientist I encountered at Mount Hakare referred to Zenith as a specific entity, someone who had initiated these experiments when Saiyans first arrived on Earth and continued directing them across centuries. The implication challenged conventional mortality parameters, requiring explanation beyond standard operational longevity. Potential hypotheses include successive leadership using identical designation, technological life extension, or entity classification beyond conventional biological limitations. Or all three, Mitsuri suggested, her expression reflecting the unsettling implications such possibilities presented. An organization directed by an entity that has systematically pursued species integration across millennia. Adapting methodologies as new variables like advanced technology become available. Their discussion was interrupted by 16's communication. Facility response teams had completed initial containment procedures and begun withdrawing from the immediate area, suggesting imminent secondary operations likely focused on evidence elimination rather than recovery. We should relocate before secondary teams deploy, Lasley advised, calculating probable response patterns based on previous facility protocols. Cleanup operations typically include expanded search parameters beyond initial containment radius. Her temporary allies acknowledged the tactical assessment without hesitation, immediately transitioning from intelligence analysis to extraction preparation. Their operational discipline further confirmed Lasley's evaluation of their professional capabilities, prioritizing security considerations over continued intelligence processing despite obvious investigative momentum. The Corps maintains a secure facility approximately 20 kilometers north of this position, Mitsuri offered, demonstrating continued alliance prioritization rather than operational separation. Quote, we could continue our analysis there with additional resources. The invitation presented both opportunity and security complication. Accessing Demon Slayer Corps resources would enhance analytical capabilities significantly, but required facility entry protocols that might compromise Lasley's operational security parameters. Alternatively, Goku suggested, recognizing her hesitation without requiring verbalization. We have access to an independent research location with comparable analytical capabilities and fewer institutional constraints. The alternative indicated awareness of her security concerns and tactical flexibility to accommodate them, another demonstration of operational professionalism that influenced Lasley's alliance calculation. Independent research location suggested resources beyond official channels while maintaining operational security priorities. Acceptable, she determined after probability analysis. 16 and I will accompany you to this research locat. Ion for continued intelligence processing. They established extraction coordination as 16's massive form appeared at the warehouse entrance, his red hair and considerable height making stealth practical despite advanced infiltration programming. Mitsuri showed momentary surprise at his physical dimensions but adjusted her tactical assessment, demonstrating professional adaptation to unexpected variables. Facility response teams have deployed aerial surveillance, 16 reported, his synthetic voice carrying no emotional inflection despite the tactical complication. Recommend immediate departure through underground infrastructure to avoid detection. Lasley had already identified suitable extraction route through abandoned drainage systems that connected the warehouse district court to transportation infrastructure beyond current surveillance perimeter. The route would accommodate 16's physical dimensions while providing concealment from aerial observation capabilities. Agreed, she confirmed, turning to her temporary allies. The drainage access point is located in the northeastern section of this facility. It connects to maintenance tunnels that extend beyond current surveillance radius. Lead the way, Goku acknowledged, deferring to her environmental familiarity with appropriate operational discipline. They proceeded through the warehouse complex toward the identified extraction point, maintaining tactical formation appropriate for confined space navigation. 16 took rear security position, his enhanced strength providing capability to manage NTIAL structural obstacles while his surveillance systems monitored for pursuit indicators. The drainage access point had deteriorated significantly since system decommissioning, requiring 16's assistance to clear debris blocking the entrance. The tunnel beyond extended into darkness, its infrastructure dating to industrial development period preceding the Gero Cybernetics facility construction. The air quality is compromised, Lasley noted as her environmental analysis systems detected chemical composition variances, organic decay and industrial contaminants exceeding safe exposure parameters for unenhanced respiration. Mitsuri produced specialized breathing filters from her equipment supplies, designed specifically for Demon Slayer operations in contaminated environments. These should provide adequate protection. They're designed to filter supernatural contaminants far more dangerous than industrial residue. Goku declined the offered equipment, his expression suggesting alternative capability. Solar breathing provides filtering protection through energy barrier generation. I'll maintain a purification field that should improve ambient conditions for all of us. High-S technique manifested as faint golden energy that expanded outward from his form, creating discernible improvement in air quality as it neutralized contaminants through mechanism Lasley's analysis systems couldn't fully categorize. The effect demonstrated capabilities beyond conventional breathing techniques, actual environmental manipulation rather than simple physiological enhancement. They proceeded through the drainage infrastructure, navigating decades of accumulated debris and structural deterioration with coordinated efficiency. Lasley's mapping systems integrated historical documentation with current structural assessment to identify optimal pathways, while 16's strength removed obstacles that would have otherwise required time-consuming circumnavigation. The entity at the facility recognized you specifically, Goku observed as they traversed a particularly challenging section where partial collapse required careful navigation. Not just your capabilities but your designation and integration architecture. The observation identified security concern Lasley had already prioritized for investigation. Correct. It possessed information restricted to classified databases with highest security protocols. The security implications extend beyond my operational parameters to potential compromise of multiple secured systems. Or someone from the original project is involved, Mitsuri suggested, demonstrating tactical insight that impressed Lasley despite her limited knowledge of the referenced project. Someone who had legitimate access to your specifications before reclassification protocols were implemented. The hypothesis presented logical alternative to security breach scenario, though with equally concerning implications. The original development team WA's reportedly eliminated following project termination. Official documentation indicates no survivors with access to complete architectural specifications. Official documentation isn't always comprehensive, Goku noted with surprising insight regarding classified operational procedures, particularly when powerful organizations prefer certain information remain contained. His observation suggested personal experience with institutional information management rather than theoretical understanding, another indicator that these individuals operated beyond conventional organizational parameters. Despite their apparent Demon Slayer core affiliation, they reached a junction where the drainage infrastructure intersected with metropolitan transportation maintenance tunnels, providing access to expanded navigation options beyond the immediate industrial district. 16 surveillance systems confirmed absence of active security measures within these secondary tunnels, suggesting safe action pathway to their designated rendezvous coordinates. As they proceeded through these better-maintained passages, Lazuli observed subtle indicators of injury that her allies had effectively concealed during their operation. Mitsuri favored her left side where impact trauma had likely caused intercostal muscle strain, while Goku's breathing pattern occasionally adjusted to compensate for what appeared to be restrictive chest movement consistent with potential rib fracture. You sustained injuries during the entity engagement, she noted clinically. Your performance parameters have maintained operational efficiency despite physical compromise. Mitsuri's expression reflected momentary surprise at the observation before professional composure returned. Hazard of the profession. Nothing that interferes with mission objectives. Healing acceleration techniques can manage interim functionality, Goku added, confirming Lazuli's assessment while demonstrating awareness of his condition. Though proper medical assessment would be advisable once immediate tactical requirements are satisfied. Their professional approach to injury management, acknowledging limitations without allowing them to compromise operational effectiveness, further confirmed Lazuli's evaluation of their exceptional training and experience. Standard operatives typically either concealed injuries completely or allowed them to impact performance. Acknowledging while compensating represented advanced operational discipline. They reached extraction coordinates as metropolitan maintenance tunnels connected with transit infrastructure that provided surface access beyond surveillance perimeter. 16's continuous monitoring confirmed that facility response teams had completed initial operations and withdrawn to secure perimeter locations, focusing on containment rather than pursuit. Our transportation is positioned approximately 300 meters from this access point, Mitsuri informed them. As they prepared for final extraction phase. Standard core vehicle with modified specifications for specialized operations. 16 and I will secure independent transportation, Lazuli decided. Calculating optimal operational security parameters. Rendezvous at your research location following standard counter-surveillance protocols. The arrangement maintained operational flexibility while preserving alliance continuation, separating temporarily for extraction security while establishing parameters for subsequent coordination. Her temporary allies accepted the tactical decision without objection, further demonstrating professional understanding of operational security requirements. They exchanged secure communication protocols through encrypted channels, establishing authentication methodology that would facilitate subsequent rendezvous without compromising operational security. The process professional respect, neither demanding unnecessary information nor withholding critical coordination parameters. The research location is approximately 70 kilometers northwest of current position, Goku provided, supplying necessary navigational data without compromising specific security details. Capsule Corporation maintains the facility as independent research installation separate from their primary operations. The information provided sufficient navigational parameters, while confirming Lazuli's assessment regarding institutional affiliations. Capsule Corporation maintained known relationships with specialized investigation operations while preserving independence fr. Own direct governmental oversight, operational characteristics aligned with her security requirements. As they prepared to separate for extraction, Mitsuri addressed Lazuli directly. Your intervention was tactically significant. The entity's capabilities exceeded our preliminary assessment parameters. The acknowledgement carried professional respect rather than indebtedness, recognition of operati. Onal contribution without emotional complication. Lazuli appreciated the distinction, finding it consistent with her own operational philosophy. The technological integration methodology presents strategic concern beyond isolated incident classification, she responded, articulating primary motivation rather than alliance justification. Continued investigation cooperation provides optimal response capability. Goku's expression suggested understanding beyond her clinical articulation. Sometimes the most logical path and the right path align perfectly, he observed with unexpected philosophical insight. We look forward to continuing our cooperation at the research facility. They separated with operational efficiency, each team proceeding toward independent extraction vectors with appropriate security protocols. As Lazuli and 16 navigated toward their concealed transportation location, she processed the unexpected alliance development within her analytical framework. These individuals, Goku and Mitsuri, represented operational capabilities and investigative methodologies that complemented her own parameters in tactically significant ways. Their professional discipline GNED with her operational priorities while providing expertise variables she couldn't replicate through independent analysis. Most significant was their apparent institutional independence despite foe RMAL affiliations, operational characteristics suggesting flexibility beyond conventional organizational constraints. Such independence aligned with Lazuli's own operational parameters, creating potent IAL for continued alliance without compromising security priorities. As their vehicle proceeded toward the designated research facility, 16 broke his characteristic analytical silence. They demonstrated unexpected operational compatibility, he observed, his synthetic voice carrying subtle inflection patterns that had developed through his ongoing evolution. Particularly the Saiyan, his energy manipulation methodology parallels your integration architecture despite entirely different fundamental principles. The observation aligned with Lazuli's own analysis. Goku's solar breathing tech HNIQUE created integration between disparate energy systems similar to her cybernetic architecture's merging of biological and technological components. The parallel suggested functional compatibility beyond coincidental alignment. Their investigation parameters indicate awareness of strategic implications beyond tactical resolution, she acknowledged, processing potential alliance benefits against security concerns. Continued cooperation provides intelligence advantages that outweigh operational exposure risks. 16's expression remained neutral, but his response carried subtle emphasis. Is that reflected developing personality components? And their operational methodology demonstrates ethical parameters consistent with your evolved priority structure. The observation penetrated Lazuli's analytical detachment, identifying emotional variables she had subconsciously integrated into her alliance calculation. Unlike many operational entities she had encountered, Goku and Mitsuri demonstrated consistent ethical framework that prioritized information preservation and tactical precision over destructive resolution. Such alignment represented significant variable in potential long-term cooperation beyond immediate tactical advantage. Lazuli had encountered few operational partners whose methodologies balanced effectiveness against ethical considerations in patterns matching her own evolved parameters. A secondary consideration, she acknowledged, maintaining professional detachment despite recognizing the observation's validity. Primary assessment focuses on investigative efficiency and intelligence processing capabilities. 16's silence communicated understanding without requiring verbalization, another benefit of their long-term operational partnership. His tactical analysis consistently incorporated emotional variables she sometimes deprioritized, providing balanced assessment that complemented her more clinical methodology. As they approached the research facility coordinates, Lazuli's systems detected energy signatures consistent with their new allies already present at the location. The signatures indicated medical treatment protocols in progress, confirmation they had sought appropriate injury management following extraction. The facility itself presented interesting security profile, visible infrastructure suggesting standard research installation, while energy patterns indicated significant subterranean development with advanced technological systems. The combination represented optimal operational environment, sufficient resources for comprehensive investigation without institutional constraints typically associated with official facilities. Lazuli initiated contact through established secure channels, confirming their approach while validating authentication protocols. The response came immediately with appropriate verification sequences, suggesting professional monitoring despite recent medical intervention. As they prepared for arrival, Lazuli performed final assessment of the operational alliance they had established. The technological integration methodology they had encountered represented unprecedented strategic 3T combining demonic adaptive capabilities with advanced cybernetic architecture. Effective response required multidisciplinary expertise beyond any single operational entity's capabilities. Goku and Mitsuri provided complementary knowledge regarding demonic essence properties and alien physiological principles that enhanced her technological expertise. Their combined investigative capabilities created analytical potential exceeding standard operational parameters, while their demonstrated professional discipline satisfied her security requirements. Most significantly, their apparent connectee onto historical investigation regarding these integration experiments provided contextual framework her independent operation had lacked. Understanding the millennia-spanning patterns suggested by the IR intelligence would significantly enhance her tactical response capabilities. The research facility appeared ahead, a modest surface structure belying the advanced installation her scanners detected beneath. As they approached the security perimeter, Lazuli acknowledged the tactical reality that had emerged from circumstantial alliance. The integration threat they faced would require integrated response methodology combining their specialized capabilities. Just as the entity had attempted technological integration of disparate components, their response would require operational integration of distinct expertise areas. The parallel wasn't lost on her analytical systems, which recognized both the irony and the strategic appropriateness of such methodology. The facility's entrance opened as they approached, revealing Goku waiting to receive the dodging visible beneath his GI. His greeting carried professional respect rather than unnecessary social convention, another indication of operational compatibility that reinforced Lazuli's alliance assessment. "Welcome to our research installation," he offered simply. "We've prepared analytical systems for the data you extracted from the entity. Mitsuri's compiling our previous findings for integration with your intelligence." The methodical efficiency impressed Lazuli, who had expected potential operational delay following their extraction and medical treatment. Instead, they had immediately prioritized intelligence processing over recovery considerations, professional discipline consistent with her own operational parameters. As they entered the facility, Lazuli recognized that their circumstantial alliance had evolved into something approaching operational partnership. The integration experiments they investigated represent the evolutionary attempt to combine disparate elements into more effective whole. Their investigation methodology now paralleled that principle through more ethical application. Whether this partnership would provide sufficient response capability against the millennia-spanning operation directed by the mysterious Zenith remained uncertain. But the combined analytical potential created through our alliance represented optimal approach methodology given available intelligence. Whatever integration Zenith sought through these experiments, whether technological, biological, or something beyond errant classification parameters, would face resistance from integration of different sort, operational methodology combining their distinct capabilities into response greater than individual components. The facility doors closed behind them as they proceeded toward the research center where their combined intelligence would begin forming comprehensive response strategy. Above, rain continued falling on the facility's outward appearance of mundane research installation, concealing the extraordinary alliance now forming within its walls against threat few understood existed. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.